3 losses and a tie between the two. But Sudbury actually outscored them 32-30 in those 8 games. So you're looking at a pretty close rivalry. But as we've seen in the playoffs so far, 2-0 Oshawa. And you've got to remember these guys have been here before, and I think that experience may be the difference so far in this series.
Big problem for the Sudbury Wolves in this series has been offense. They haven't been able to score when they've had to, and one of the reasons for that is their number 1 line. The Stoss, Berg, Chitteroni line has not checked into this series yet, but conversely, Oshawa's been getting production from their top line.
Well, Lindros, Pearson, and Hoffman each have 2 goals apiece in this series, and I think that pretty much tells it all. And I still think the turning point of this series, should Oshawa go on to win it, could be the last game in Sudbury. It was 2-1 after the first period, but the Generals explode for 3 goals in 2.5 minutes. In the 3.5 minutes in the second period, and that basically blew it wide open.
Certainly did, because that made the score 5-1 at that point, and Sudbury just has not had the offense to put themselves back in that situation. But you go back to game 1, and here you have Sudbury with a 2-1 advantage in the third period, and it took a late goal by Dale Craigwell to put it away. That's what the Generals have going for them. They have the depth up front. They can get the goals when they need to. Let's look on the other side of it, the goaltending, and so far Fred Brathwaite will make his 3rd start of this series tonight, and at the other end of the ice also a 3rd start for John Tanner, but he's been a Jekyll and Hyde act.
Well, so far he was first star in the series opener right here at Oshawa. Then during that flurry, the Oshawa put on Sudbury in the second period of the last game. He was pulled, but he is coming back this evening. And hopefully, I mean, John Tanner has taken a lot of criticism over certain anecdotes he's had in a book that was published. But now he's got the chance. They've given him the ball. They say, you're the number 1 guy. Now it's up to him.
Well, he made 37 of 40 stops in game 1, but he let in 4 on 14 shots in game 2. A lot of the outcome of today's game will be determined at least on the performance of John Tanner. So we're looking forward to it. Game 3 of the Leyden Division quarterfinals. The Oshawa Generals and the Sudbury Wolves on the OHL Game of the Week.
There's a look at the starting goaltenders. John Tanner back in goal for the Sudbury Wolves despite being yanked in the previous outing. He just averaged 4.47 in the playoffs. He's taken both losses. Fred Brathwaite of the Oshawa Generals, 256 goals against average. He's recorded both wins. And look at this. You talk about playoff goaltending, 91.4 save percentage. So Fred Brathwaite.
Daryl Borden will be our referee for this game, and he'll be aided on the lines by Ken Cox and Al Detler. The Oshawa Generals in white with blue pants, defending to our left, and the Sudbury Wolves in blue and gray. As we're just about ready to get underway in game number 3 of this Leyden Division quarterfinal series, a must game for the Sudbury Wolves, who trail in this one 2-0. O'Donnell getting the return pass from Wade Bartley, and now out at center. Wolves need some offense. They may be concentrating on that a little bit more in this contest. Alistair Still bumped into the boards. Puck is in tow, and now it's knocked loose. Still a crowd is in there, and David Cravich moving it free and intercepted behind the net. And Jason Young attempting to center it, and he will be intercepted. Scott Looock, number 14 for Oshawa, rink wide left side for Craigwell, who ran into Still. Craigwell getting loose from the check into the skates of Cravich. Can't make a play. Knocked back by Rivers. And number 4 for Oshawa, Wade Simpson. Back behind his line, will clear it out through center, and Bartley will pick it off there. Number 17 for Sudbury, Still didn't have it for long, and Craigwell will dump it down. Tanner behind the net. Remember, he is a wandering goaltender as he clears it off the boards, and it's brought back in offside.
Well, Ralphie, I guess the early indication is that Tanner's going to try to exert himself tonight, and he pretty well has to. I figure he's got to be the rallying point for the Wolves.
Well, and I think, too, he's got to look at it as a positive point that the Wolves come right back with him despite getting yanked in his last outing in Sudbury. And I mean, that's a point where Jack and I talked a little bit in the opening that John Tanner was under the gun a little bit over some quotes he had in a book. And he talked about, forget the book.
Yeah.
We may be rewriting a chapter here. It's been a tame series so far, but this one may be, this game may be changing from the previous two.
Oh, look at that.
Hoffman is on top. Abu, I'm not sure. It may be Chitteroni, but I'm not 100% sure.
Well, you got to believe, Ralphie, also that because the Wolves are down 2-0 in this series, they've got to try virtually everything tonight.
Well, they do, but I don't think they wanted to get themselves in this kind of position that the fans are now into it. We'll be back 56 seconds into the first period. Sudbury and Oshawa.
Well, we're not even 1 minute into this contest, and Matt Hoffman goes off with Terry Chitteroni 5 for fighting. And both coaches told me that there had not been a lot of this in the series. It's been relatively tame, but this is game 3. And if there's been any animosity that's been sat on in the previous 2 contests, it's coming out early on here. Daryl Borden, the referee of this game, and he's assessing minor penalties as well as the majors, so we'll hang tight here. Rick Kornacki looking on. Daryl Borden busy at the penalty box. They have a penalty up against Sudbury's John Stoss. Now, that's the only one listed on the board right now. And if there's one thing the Wolves don't want to get themselves into, it's penalty trouble, because, let's face it, Oshawa has the offense to put it away early.
And we just saw Hoffman going across, we assumed, to the dressing room for repairs. And, of course, he had a few choice words for the Sudbury bench en route to the exit.
One thing about it, if the players want to talk to the other team, they don't have to go far to do it. The benches are separated by maybe 8 feet. And the only thing between the benches is a restraining bar. They literally sit side by side with the trainers between them. And a big crowd here tonight. And right off the bat, they're seeing both teams getting into it in their own way. They're expecting 4,000 plus for this game.
Jimmy, interesting to note as well that once a skirmish broke out, a couple of Sudbury players tried to entice Eric Lindros into getting involved, and the big fella certainly would have nothing to do with it.
And that's a break for the Wolves.
Well, yeah, it's kind of the suicide missions during some terrorist attacks.
Hey,
you're gonna take it for the team.
I can't understand that. That's like in the old days, the guy who used to body check the Big M on the first shift. Why do you want to do that?
Maybe you're in your option year and you want another contract.
Oshawa also picked up a minor penalty as J.P. Davis went off, so the teams are at even strength but shorthanded. And the puck is deep in the Oshawa zone. Coming away, a pass intended for Grieve, too far, catching up with it, stabs it ahead to the line where it's blocked by Bennett. Now O'Hagan from the right side, dumping it in, and a bouncing puck behind the net to Rob Pearson on the other side. He's out there with Lindros. Puck is picked off by Bennett, dealing behind the net. The other way goes Barry Young for Bennett. He has some room on the right side. Bennett passes behind Kovacs out at center and over the line for Jason Young, and he didn't have it for long. And here's Pearson wide open with Lindros 2-on-1. Pearson shoots, he scores!
That's a pretty imposing sight when you know the decoy on the play is Lindros, and Pearson didn't take any mustard off that shot at all.
You can see the puck seemed to be flipped up on end too, so he put it top shelf from about the top of the circle, and Rob Pearson, who had a point in every game since joining the Oshawa Generals, a 41-game point streak. He has now extended that 3 more games in the playoffs. Goal number 3 for Rob Pearson in the playoffs so far. So you always need your big guns to come through for you in postseason play. Rob Pearson is proving that he can do it.
Well, you talk about a goalie's nightmare. Isn't that unbelievable, those two guys?
And he did not tip off whether he was going to pass or shoot. And that was the key as he drills one home for his 3rd of the postseason. Over the course of the year, Pearson scored 63 goals in 51 games. Out through center is Scott Hollis in on the left wing, and he dumps it to the corner, and he goes in after it himself. Tip behind the net, and Sudbury will take it away. Rivers being chased by Hollis. Rivers on the backhand. We have a slashing penalty, and it's coming up against the Sudbury Wolves. So down by a goal, down by a man, and we've only played 2:17 of the opening period. This is the OHL Game of the Week on the Global Television Network. Tanner. John Tanner is a very physical goaltender, and he is going to pick up a slashing penalty, which will leave Sudbury shorthanded. A 4-on-3 power play coming up for the Oshawa Generals. And Tanner gets very involved in his crease area. He had 20 penalty minutes this season. Could have had many more. Generals back at the point. Craigwell moving it back. Slot area. Craven moving it to the side. Another penalty coming up against Sudbury.
And I believe it's going to be Tanner again. I tell you, he had the axe out in the crease, and he was chopping at Eric Lindros. And he's going to take his second consecutive penalty. Watch this. Watch the stick work by Tanner. One. Well, that is only one. Here we go again. He lets him have it a couple of more times. Being aggressive is one thing, but that's borderline criminal.
Tanner's second penalty cannot start until the expiration of John Stoss's minor in 19 seconds. And then the Generals are going to have a two-man advantage for 1:21.
I don't know, Ralphie. What do you expect the guy to do? Stand there and watch the puck go in? I mean, Billy Smith made a career on this stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, very seldomly you see officials call that twice in a row. I mean, call a goaltender for a penalty.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
But on the other hand, I mean, you see so many times where players will bump goaltenders, run them over in the crease, and it's not called. Now we have a situation where a goaltender gets nailed twice only because he wants to see the puck, and he's got a 6'4", 6'5" monster blocking his view. You can certainly sympathize with the position Tanner was in.
You can, we can. This could be the earliest turning point in hockey history. We're not even 3 minutes in, and if the Generals get a goal here, you got to feel that it's going to be a long night for the Wolves.
Well, either that or John Tanner has just gone a long way to making himself the first star of this hockey game, because he's certainly got his work cut out for him now. Although, on the other hand, since they're down 2 men right now, he can hack as many guys as he wants. He can just finish the game that way.
But he said that 15 seconds ago, and referee Borden wasn't listening.
No, you can do that in the last 2 minutes of a game, but they're just getting started, and already Tanner is his penalties stacked on top of one another. They are one man short for the next 19 seconds, and then Tanner will be serving 2 penalties at once. Obviously not in person, but certainly in spirit.
The one thing you have to say about Tanner is he is controlling his own fate.
Yeah. Controlling or maybe destroying.
Coach Ken Mckenzie may start controlling his fate in a moment.
A lot of jabbing of the verbal variety going on from both those benches. See both head coaches up there beaking off at the officials and trying to get the boys revved up.
Face off to the right of John Tanner, and the Wolves will clear, and they'll be in that mode quite a bit over the next couple of minutes. 1-0. Oshawa in the lead, and we're just underway here in game 3 of this Leyden Division quarterfinal. Pearson 9-irons it in around the boards, tip to the corner, and O'Donnell is there, waits a minute, and then gets some help from Jason Young. He's the young man who missed 29 games this season due to that check on Grant Marshall. He's come back and played very well considering his inactivity. Lindros with it, playing it to the wing. Craigwell drops it back. Pearson to Craigwell, looking for Lindros in front. Tanner is out of the net, and he can't get it through Craigwell into the corner. They move it out in front. Short side shot missed, and a 2-man advantage rests with the Oshawa Generals for the next 45 seconds. David Trayvis in the center ice area. Gens looking to get organized here. Lindros has lost his helmet. Davis can't get through O'Donnell. And it's up along the boards, back to the Oshawa line, and Craven will play it ahead, broken up by Bennett. Kovacs clears it the length of the ice. 25 seconds left in Tanner's first penalty, a minute left in Tanner's second penalty, and boy, does that sound strange. Craven on the left wing, bouncing one in the corner. Tanner will steady that behind the net, then reverse it back to the corner, and Bennett will drill it. And giving chase will be Scott Looock. A little daylight here as Tanner's initial call is about to expire, and the Wolves get 1 man back. They'll be shorthanded 37 seconds, and here goes Lindros. Burst of speed. Tanner is down, and he has the puck.
Ralphie, what do we have? 2 shots there, the whole power play?
Actually, that last rush by Lindros, in which he really never got a shot off, was the only shot, Jimmy. They had 2. They scored in the first one when Pearson scored. And you'll see here, I guess if, well, they counted it as a shot on goal. I don't know if I agree entirely, but did not have a shot on goal before that play.
And Tanner trying to engage Big Eric in some sort of a verbal battle down there. So you got to feel that one way or the other, Tanner's going to be the focal point of this game.
Well, he's off to a great start. But you talked about, Jimmy, a little earlier about this could be the turning point of the game. And I know you meant it in the Oshawa Generals' favor, but it could give the Sudbury Wolves a big lift. If they're able to kill this off, they've got 32 seconds left in Tanner's second penalty.
Yeah.
And who knows? I mean, they shut down a top offensive team. Oshawa was 2 for 6 in the power play so far in the playoffs heading into this one.
J.P. Davis at the blue line. Feeds along the boards. Craigwell looks for an open man. It goes back to Davis. Dealt off left side. Looock moving in. And the shot is taken. A chance for Pearson. Scores! That was an excuse me shot, and it squeaked through.
Well, that's a tough goal, Ralphie, because Tanner literally didn't see it. It was a seeing eye shot, and there's no way you're going to stop it. And the Wolves have been killing off these penalties so well. Look at that thing. Talk about threading the needle.
Well, that's something that all great goal scorers have, is that feel for the net. Pearson, you can see had his head down, just turned. You saw how quick he got it away, and you really cannot blame Tanner. His defenseman had tried to go down to block the shot in front of him. Rob Pearson, his 4th goal, which is unbelievable to me, but I mean, you've seen what he's done in the regular season, and I said it the pregame, you've got to have your big guns going in postseason play, and that's certainly what they've gotten.
Well, the Maple Leaf fans in the audience will enjoy those 2 goals, that's for sure.
Rob Pearson, a first rounder of the Toronto Maple Leafs in 1989, and he has been ringing up goals at a near record rate. Along the far boards, it's cleared off the glass and may have cut a piece of the referee, Daryl Borden. Bob Berg can't get that pass. Craven picking it off at the line. Hit by Matthews along the boards. Tanner behind the net. Fell down, and the crowd will like that.
Look out.
We have a fight going on at the side of the net.
Now, I know Tanner upset, feeling that he was hit behind the net. And I realize 2 things. Number one, goalies are fair game when they roam out behind their net. But on the other hand, Tanner takes 2 penalties for trying to clear some traffic in front. Now Borden watches Tanner get run over behind the net, and there's no call.
We'll soon find out if there will be a call or not. There's obviously going to be some. 2-0. The Generals are leading. You're watching the OHL Game of the Week.
Welcome back to Oshawa. Let's take a look here and see how hard Tanner is hitting. I got to remind you guys that in the NHL, this is a penalty because they like to protect the goalies like the NFL protects the quarterback.
Like I said, it's twofold, Jimmy. The goalie is fair game if he wants to come out of his crease. But what Borden has done is he is told, as we see the penalties coming up now, the Generals are going to take a double minor for it. But he did not have that in the original call.
No.
And
but
it seemed to be a clear message at the time before the penalties were announced, that he was saying to Tanner, you can't do anything to clear the front of the net. But on the other hand, I'm not going to protect you either. He's got to make that call.
Yeah, he got the 2 minutes on running the goaltender, which is the correct call there. That's what they have to do. I guess there's 2 angles to look at now in this game. You got to believe that the Wolves are going to try and do everything to take the Generals off their game. The Generals are going to counter and go after Mr. Tanner, and young Mr. Brathwaite down the other end hasn't seen a puck yet, so we got to see how he reacts.
Well, the funny thing is Borden, I would have loved to have seen a shot at him after that play had occurred. His arm was not up. He was not going to make a call until the Sudbury player got into a scrap.
Barry Young gets a minor for roughing, and Claire Cornish charging in roughing. The teams will play shy a man but at even strength for the first couple of minutes. And the Sudbury Wolves trailing 2-0 early here and trailing 2-0 in the series. Convery dumps it down in the corner. Along the boards, Hollis tries to sweep it away, kept in at the point by Rivers, and he bounces one into the far corner, and it will be cleared by Simpson behind the net. Looking for Hollis, reaching, cannot clear it, still up for grabs. Simpson can't get it out. Hollis has it trickle out to Waiver at center, back to Hollis. Scott Hollis lays it over on the wing for David Kravich, number 5. Kravich in the middle. Weaver throws it back to the blue line. Simpson, top of the circle, he shoots, and a pad save. It will be cleared from there, and back into the Oshawa zone it goes. Kravich on the right wing with Craigwell, who accepts the pass in on goal. Backhand attempt, short side, and he hit the side of the net. Still with it behind the goal, with Bartley on him. Craigwell getting a lot of heat from Bartley. Looook in the corner. Tries to make a play along the boards for Craigwell. Looks to Kravich at the point. There's the shot. Tanaris down, makes the stop, and there will be no further play.
Well, a quick glance up at the shots on goal clock. 7-0 in favor of the Oshawa Generals, and I'm sure the wait has been long enough for Fred Brathwaite. We're almost 7 minutes into the opening period, and I don't think Sudbury's even controlled the puck in the Oshawa zone.
No, but in another 39 seconds, they'll go on the power play and hopefully get some work down there for Fred. Got to believe that after 7 minutes of seeing no rubber, he's going to at least hang on to it and introduce himself to the puck so they can get along the rest of the night.
Well, actually, the best thing for a goaltender in that situation is to get all kinds of shots from the point. Just get into the game, direct them to the corners, like you said, Jimmy, hold on to it. Just try to get a feel for it. But I don't know if the power play is exactly the way you want to go about doing it.
Now, you never had that problem as a goaltender.
No.
Teams at even strength. Jason Young held up by O'Hagan at center, and the puck comes quietly back to Davis, cleared to center. Lindros to Pearson. He's already scored twice, and he is poke checked by O'Donnell. Bartley looking for an outlet with Pearson trailing him, and not by far. Bartley with good speed through center. He's in over the line. Offside with Stoss on the right wing. The Oshawa Generals have outscored the Sudbury Wolves 2-0, outshot them 7-0, and lead in this series 2-0. 13 seconds to a Sudbury power play, and the faceoff is outside of the Oshawa blue line. Chitteroni and O'Donnell working with Stoss and Bartley, and there will be a fifth member added to that in a few moments. But right now, the puck is deep in the Sudbury zone. Bartley coming away, number 8, to Chitteroni on the wing. Sudbury's first power play of the game. They're looking for their first shot of the game. Chitteroni into the corner. Stoss, who went right by him, and racing after it, Craigwell against Bennett. Puck came loose, and Burgess will clear it around on the far side, and the Generals will take it away slowly. Burgess accepting a pass, feeding it ahead, Hoffman over the line, and it's intercepted, and a pass ahead to Chitteroni, and they call it back across 2 lines, and I'll tell you something, John Stoss is hot.
Well, I'd like to see that one again. I thought Stoss waited until he got over the blue line to make the pass, and he looked pretty careful over it. The only thing is, boys, the whistle is gone. You can't argue the call now. They're not going to say, okay, take it from there, blue line, get in the breakaway, we'll pick it up.
Chitteroni is Sudbury's #1 point producer this year. We'll see if we can catch it. We're watching for a 2-line pass, and we can't see it there.
No.
Chitteroni had 28 goals, 71 points this season, and he was looking to get 1 shot on goal.
Well, I certainly raised an eyebrow when the whistle blew. I thought he had cleared the line.
Well, the linesman is saying it was pretty darn close. You can't squeeze inside the Sudbury zone for this faceoff anymore.
Oh, there we go.
Penalty coming up. Bob Berg appears to be the one to get the gate. And if that is indeed the case, so much for the Sudbury power play, which had 29 seconds to work. Bob Berg is going off, and so far, boys, Sudbury can't get anything going right.
Boy, they look like they're going to get their first shot on goal, and a nice breakaway. That's whistled down. Bob Berg, brother of Bill, who plays with the Islanders, gets whistled down, and nothing happening for the Wolves so far.
Well, it's certainly a bad sign. I mean, Tanner picks up consecutive penalties earlier on. Pearson eventually scores on the second one. And now Bob Berg here when Sudbury finally has a chance to get back into it. Takes the... There's no way to dress it up. I mean, it was a stupid penalty.
That is not a happy camper. Sudbury coach Ken Mckenzie. And his team is down by 2 goals and squandered what could have been a power play.
Look, the shot on goal.
Scores! Glenn Murray right through the 5-hole.
Oh, my. The first shot on goal right through the 5-hole, and you got to feel bad for Fred Brathwaite because he hasn't seen the disc all night.
And how does he get introduced to this game? Well, what about having somebody wind up from the face-off circle? And you got to feel bad for Brathwaite, but talk about a funny turn of events for the Sudbury Wolves. They lose a power play. And only a matter of seconds later, Glenn Murray gets him on the board. 2-1. Should we get out the cliche book now? What a big goal for the Sudbury Wolves.
I don't know if you can come up with one for this game. It's so weird. It shifts every 3 or 4 minutes.
Glenn Murray's second of the postseason at 7:55 on Sudbury's first shot on net. And Lindros lets go of the blast, and it's off the pad of Tanner, and back comes Sudbury again, and it's Murray that'll show the way. Dropping it back at the line. Matthews moving in. Side of the net. They score. Murray has tied it.
Boy, I'll tell you what, Ralphie, I want to go back, 20 seconds to that shot of Ken Mckenzie on the Sudbury bench. Looked like it was the end of the world. Now look at these guys.
Oh, you talk about anything can happen in postseason play. You talk about great give and go. There you'll see Murray just snapping in a second. And again, you've got a point to Fred Brathwaite. Nice way to get introduced to a game. Defensive. 2 shots, 2 goals against, and really not much of a chance on this one.
Good job by Jamie Matthews here. He has everybody faked out. He has Davis looking one way. He certainly has Brathwaite guessing, and Murray scores his second goal in 19 seconds, and that quickly we are tied. Long shot in. Brathwaite will make his first save of the game, and getting a little bit of a derisive attempt from the crowd, having made a stop. 2-2 score. 11:28 left in the opening period. The Oshawa Generals have been the top team in the country all year long, and that's where they are again this week. And the top 3 have not changed with the Western Hockey League. Lethbridge Hurricane and Kamloops Blazers 2 and 3. North Bay Centennials 6 last week, ditto this week. Same for the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds and the Ottawa 67s, number 9. Without Jim Ralph.
That's why they're there.
Oh, yes,
sorry, guy.
It's been 2 weeks. You boys have had a chance to stock up.
Oh, I'll tell you something. I've had a few rough nights in playoff games in this town.
Bouncing puck. Sudbury coming right back and tying this game just when things look to be going completely against them. Here's a shot by Still. Rebound in front. And O'Hagan will push it to the near boards. And Dale Craigwell, number 16 for Oshawa. On the left wing for Davis. Tipped back to Craigwell out at center. Craigwell digs for the wing and in over the line. Sets up there. Here's a pass in the middle for Looock, and he can't hang on to it. And Rivers dumps it back. Craigwell intercepts. Looock along the boards, bracing for a shot by Rivers. Sudbury will come back with the puck on left wing, and here's Jason Young, number 16. Young tips it intended for Still, and it ends up being offside.
Oh. Now O'Hagan taking offense to the Sudbury player.
Well, I think we're going to see a lot of this tonight. See Jason Young out there. It's our first look at him because he's back from the suspension. Expected to go very highly in the first round.
Now look, we've got Adam Bennett and Scott Looock. Looock ends up on top on this one.
Well, I guess this pretty well had to happen, Ralph.
Whoa.
WWF had to blow off some frustration on both sides.
The Hulkster would have been proud of that last one.
Huh.
Well, like I said, talking to people before the game, they said it's been a very quiet series. There's been none of this. So maybe
it's those quiet series. You got to watch those, Jack. Just when they blow, look out.
What about the shots on goal? They were 8-2 after the Oshawa Generals tied it. It is now 8-6. Sudbury has come back as we... Oh, yeah, I can see somebody taking offense to that.
Yeah.
Elbows Davis.
Oh. And O'Hagan a little uncalled for. It'll be interesting to see if he takes something extra. Came in pretty high with his stick.
Alistair
And
Still.
that really starts it all.
It was 3-on-1 there for a minute, Ralphie. Still was Still.
Well, right now we haven't got any additional penalty minutes up on the board. I don't know if they're all going to cancel out.
Well, Still's in the box. I see Bennett in the box. And a couple of generals. We see O'Hagan and Looock. So looks like they're going to cancel out. Rick Kornacki writing everything down. And he's going to have voluminous notes on this one.
Those are the ones that glow in the dark.
Oh, his probably will.
Rob Pearson.
Illuminous.
Rob Pearson gave Oshawa a 2-goal lead. Glenn Murray has tied it up for Sudbury with 2 goals himself. Rivers assisted on both. And now it's time to clean up. And while they do that, we'll take a break from Oshawa. You're watching the OHL Game of the Week. Now they're still cleaning up the ice from the equipment, and we should be underway here in just a moment. 9:15 expired in the opening period, and Eric Lindros grabbing a quick breather at the bench.
Just out of curiosity, Eric Lindros, in 9 minutes and 15 seconds in this game, only has an assist so far. Would that be officially considered a slump?
For you, it would. For him, he's just warming up.
Eric Lindros missed 9 games this year and yet still led the league in points with a total of 100 and where did he go here? 149. And prorated his points over a full season. And if he had played the entire 66-game schedule, would have finished with 173 points and 82 goals.
And we saw earlier in the building Rick Kerr and his agent. Now, how'd you like to be Rick at around last week of May, the first week of June?
Well, I'd say you might be able to put the down payment on that little shack in the Bahamas.
Well, they've cleaned up the paraphernalia, and trust me, when there's 2 finalias on the ice, it gets a little messy.
Actually, going back to Rick Kern, very respected agent. And I think Eric Lindros has made I mean, there are a number of great agents in the game. I know Larry Kelly in Ottawa, who represents the likes of Doug Wilson, Mike Vernon, Doug Gilmore, Jim Ralph when he played. Has a pretty impressive list.
Wow, 2 out of 3 ain't bad, eh?
Yeah. Although Vernon's played better lately, so.
Yeah, but he's got a career.
Action coming up in the Ontario Hockey League. On the Brood Out of Town scoreboard, Sault Ste. Marie is at Hamilton with the Greyhounds leading that series. And that should be 3-0 after an overtime victory on Thursday night. Penalties galore on the board right now. They're showing Davis and O'Hagan for Oshawa. And on the Sudbury side, they'll have to hold off as there was still 29 seconds left in Berg's penalty. So they put one up for Jason Young. And the other one will be to Adam Bennett. After today's game, we'll bring in the Molson Cup 3 stars. And the first star will receive the Brute Men's Sports Bag and the Brute products.
It's getting towards the end of the season, so some of those products may have been sampled. I saw Ralphie dipping into the proceeds before the game.
He asked for some ice cubes, didn't he? I think we're just about ready to resume. 3-on-3, and Lindros fighting for the puck. In on right wing, around Bartley. In front for Craigwell, and Tanner gets a piece of the puck, and back comes Wade Bartley. At center for Sudbury, 1-man back. Craven. Hartley tries to drive through him without success. Craven holds him up and looking for help from Craigwell along the boards, and he'll get it. Dale Craigwell starts away. 1 penalty about to expire. That's Berg's. However, Bennett's is just starting, so they remain 3-on-3. Lindros in the corner. Now Sudbury will be up a man. Down the ice it goes. I think there's a mix-up there. It could be me.
That's pretty interesting. There's 2 guys in the box.
The Wolves have 1 man too many out there. Lindros gains the zone, and nobody's noticed it. But Sudbury did pick up 2 penalties there, did they not?
Well, unless one of them's a misconduct.
We didn't pick up the announcement, but I was sure that we picked up penalties against Bennett and Young.
I got to believe one of those is a misconduct, Jack.
Well, as you see, there's only the one penalty showing.
Which is an interesting call if it is a misconduct.
It may have been O'Hagan taking the extra one.
Faceoff will be outside the blue line, so the Sudbury Wolves have a power play for the next minute and 7 seconds. They are officially 0 for 1. 2-2 is our score. High shot out through center. And back after it is Sean Rivers. Rivers starting away. Number 24 for the Sudbury Wolves, a native of Ottawa, plays it in on the wing. Matthews in on goal. And his shot is blocked by Brathwaite, who follows up with a clearing pass down the ice. Tenor coming out to play to O'Donnell. O'Donnell up on the wing. Tended for Murray. He can't hang on. And Craven spots Craigwell open. And it's a 2-on-1 Oshawa with Lindros. Craigwell to Lindros on the boards. And Lindros is going to kill off time and send it the length of the ice. Craven, Murray on him. Went through Chitteroni at the point. Out at center. It's carried by Rivers. Dealt off on the left side. O'Donnell is in with it. O'Donnell in front. And he was looking for Chitteroni to deflect that. Chitteroni ends up across the crossbar and takes the net off its pins. Well, Sudbury seems to have settled down considerably since the beginning of the game, and they're coming back with some good scoring opportunities. And where the shots were once 8-0, they are now 8-7.
Let's take a look at it again. I'll tell you one thing the Wolves do when they get in there is they seem to drive to the net rather well, Ralphie.
Well,
that's rather well.
There's a pretty good example. The back door would have been open. He'd be out in the parking lot now.
With the net with them.
Well, Fred Brathwaite got a kind of a rude welcome into this hockey game. First 2 shots on goal. Found the net. Glenn Murray scoring both of them. Shots on goal have evened out now. 8-7, 7-0 at one point in the first period when Oshawa held a 2-0 lead.
7 seconds left in the Sudbury power play. Chitteroni is in for the face-off against Matt Hoffman. And Chitteroni is complaining that Hoffman is jumping. But it's Chitteroni who's being waved out of the circle. Or away from the dot. And replaced by John Stoss. Chitteroni deflects it in. And Crave will clear it out. Both teams now skating at full strength for the first time in a while. Out at center. Rink wide, deflected by Stoss for Chitteroni. Over the line, but not through the defense. And Waiver back in the corner, taken to the wall by Stoss. Puck still lying loose in the corner, now centered in front. And Pearson, standing guard, will chip it away. Very Young from center. And behind the net, Brathwaite lets it go to Crave in the corner. Rung up along the boards, and Bartley picking it off at center. Hoffman steals it. But as he spun around to do so, he put himself offside.
Be sure to pick up your Washington Minor Hockey Cash Draw tickets. They're on sale.
Well, a big crowd got into this game early, and Sudbury has silenced them to a large extent as Matt Hoffman, who will be talking with Jim Tatti later in the program, skating back toward the bench.
We pre-recorded it before the game, and I got to tell you, this guy wouldn't talk about himself no matter how you tried to edge him in that direction. Very unassuming, just happy to be here, as they say in the business, playing on the left side generally with Lindros and Pearson, but he wouldn't talk about himself.
Should have asked him how he was. I'm sure he would have.
What a find. He was a walk-on as an 18-year-old from Saginaw, Michigan. Anybody could have signed him. The Generals did, and he tripled his point output this year. Brandon Conbury fighting for the puck, will lose it. Burgess behind the net will clear it out. On the wing, here is Cornish over the line. Cornish handing off. Deasley into the corner. Still with it around the goal. Deasley looks to set it up. Deflected in front. Tanner reaching, won't come up with it. Hollis can't do anything with it as he's pinned down by Barry Young. And a game behind the Sudbury net where a lot of activities transpired in this period. There's more of it. Except Tanner's not in the middle of it this time.
Been a very strange game. Jimmy mentioned it a little earlier. really choppy. It seems like we've had a lot of face-offs lately, and here the Generals get a couple of whacks at it. Now watch Tanner pull up. This is my only concern. It was off his shoulder. Maybe it couldn't be helped, but he seems to. He dropped to his knees a little early on Pearson's first goal, and he seemed to freeze on the second one.
Look out.
And here we go. Everybody's into it that's on the ice. We keep waiting to see a rugby ball come out of there somewhere.
Well, I don't think there's any question that the referee, Daryl Borden, has to lay down the law, maybe kick a player or two out of the game. This is starting to unravel.
They're slowly but surely clearing this up, and big Mark Beasley and John O'Donnell are right in the middle of it. We are tied at 2 in the opening period of this game from the Oshawa Civic Auditorium.
Welcome back to Oshawa, and as Dick Ehrman would say, well, Danny, a gathering of the clan out there.
And Dick, of course, Danny would reply, thank you, Dick.
Yes, he would. This is starting to look like a NHL game I saw last Sunday night, Chicago and St. Louis. 12 players kicked out of that game. Never seen that before.
Fines came down pretty heavy this week.
Yeah.
10,000 a team, 10 game suspensions.
Looks like Sudbury's going to pick up the extra penalty. Sean O'Donnell's number has been posted up on the penalty clock board as Rick Kornacki tries to keep track with all the penalties. I think he may need another pad of paper before the first period's over.
Actually, Danny, he's writing down shopping needs for after the game.
Actually, I saw Dick Irvin this morning, Mr. Tatti. I'll relay that to him.
Thank you.
Well, they're wearing out a path to the penalty box door in this opening period. We haven't totaled it all up yet.
Or is this still the first period?
First period still.
Oh.
I'm hearing 10-minute misconducts.
Well, we have 7:34 left in the first period. It's already been 40 minutes since face-off time. I have a feeling we're going to be making that phone call. Honey, we're going to be a little late.
Bennett is in the box. That's from before. Bartley
right.
gets a 10-minute misconduct. So does Beasley. And there's a roughing minor going up against Sean O'Donnell. And so all of this will leave Oshawa with another power play chance. They are officially 1 for 3. 2-2 is our score. It will be Lindros, Pearson, and Cregwell. Davis and Kravich on this Oshawa power play. Kravich for Davis. Back to Kravich. And he'll bring it in on the right side and dump it in. Off the boards, Barry Young looks for an opening, gets it between the defense and down the ice. Teams are tied at 2. Oshawa has an opportunity here with the man advantage. And they go to the attack with Pearson on left wing. He has both Generals' goals. He is two-manned on the boards. And when you're down by a man to begin with, that's kind of dangerous when Lindros and Cregwell are the other guys on the ice. Lindros lost the puck. Gathering it in is Jason Young. He drops it back. Rivers for Young. And we have a pair of Youngs out there right now. And number 3, Barry Young. Number 6 is Jason. 16, rather, Jason. And there is Rob Pearson.
Well, you know, you've got to think what Scott Thornton might have done in Belleville had the Toronto Maple Leafs returned him right after training camp this year. You see Pearson getting all this publicity. I mean, he's had a great point scoring streak, and here's Scotty Thornton sitting up in Toronto until the trade deadline, not playing.
But now that you bring that up, would Pearson even be here if Thornton had been in Belleville?
Good point.
They wouldn't have made the trade, right?
I would think not. But at the same time, Pearson would have just as much talent in Belleville, I would think, as he would in Oshawa. And so
right, at the Quinty Sports Center.
One thing that Thornton got that Pearson didn't was a couple of months of NHL paychecks, which I don't think Scotty's about to turn back. Craigwell in the neutral zone. And he dumps it down in the right wing corner. And behind the net, John Tanner clears. Hoffman tried to play it back to the point. It will be Young doing it for him. Craigwell feeding. Off the boards, Pearson looking for someone in the corner. It's Hoffman. Hoffman looks back at Pearson. Tipped back to the line. J.P. Davis shovels it to the side of the net in front. And it's jammed at by Lindros and turned away. Into the corner, and a collision is there as the puck is cleared out to center. And 36 seconds remaining, and the penalty to Sean O'Donnell. Craigwell at center, waiting for his team to get organized, and he'll lead them across the line. Craigwell into the right wing corner, tries to center. It kicks off Rivers back in the corner. And Craigwell from his knees keeping it in. Now Lindros sets up along the boards, dropping it back. Davis turns and shoots, and way out of the net is goaltender John Tanner with an awful lot of traffic around him.
Well, you can certainly see why John Tanner wants to clear his vision in front of him, because he's had 2 or 3 players stand in front of him, as we see Tanner and Lindros having words.
Boy, they've been jawing at each other all night, those two fellas.
Got news for you. This has been going on for a month, going back to games during the regular season. Tanner and Lindros had many a verbal exchange,
and could go on for quite a few years in the big time.
Well, you got to realize, though, Tanner belongs to the Quebec Nordiques.
Right. Right. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Sportsline.
I'm talking about the pregame practices. You know, those things can be just as tough as the game. Well, I'm just reading all this Lindros trade talk, so, you know, I got ahead of myself.
That is true. I still don't think the Nordiques would be willing to give up on him. I mean, you look at what Lemieux's done with Pittsburgh. You look at Gretzky going to Los Angeles. I just think it would be too big a gamble to move him before you ever played a game in Quebec. Of course, they got that contract thing to work out.
Well, he'll be playing there in the Memorial Cup likely as well.
That's right.
In the corner, power play is over, and Sudbury looking to get the puck out so they can get organized. So far, they've been denied that chance. Rivers plays it ahead for O'Donnell, and he scoops it off the boards to center ice, rolled in, delayed offside, and it's now nullified out at center off the skate of Chitteroni. Picked up by Craigwell, takes a hit, loses the puck, and Rivers plays it out into the neutral zone. Off Scott Hollis deep, and Craven takes it behind his net. Almost hit referee Daryl Borden with that one. O'Donnell offside as Stoss takes the pass. Well, I don't think I'd discourage Eric Lindros from taking French lessons, because I don't think he's going anywhere no matter what the rumors say. But you never know, maybe Tanner could get traded.
Well,
Mr.
you got to
Tatti's...
remember Ariel Lemieux was drafted from the Pittsburgh Penguins because he had yet to sign a contract with them. He refused to go down to the table at the draft, and all kinds of rumors that he was going all different places. Ariel Lemieux is still in Pittsburgh.
Lots of activity after the penalties, and Chitteroni's about to get it from both sides.
Looks like a scene of a slap shot.
Well, you see that what they're talking about too now in Quebec, replacing the Colisée, and they figure Lindros is the guy who's going to help pay for a new building. So if that's the way they're thinking in terms of this young man and what he can do for the franchise, I don't think money will be too much of a problem down the road. Top of the circle, here is Davis rolling to the side of the net. Craigwell in front, shot, Tanner. He went right across the goal line, and he's so big he covered the entire net.
Well, John Tanner's best save of the hockey game so far by a long shot, Jack. Watch him follow the shot over. There's the one-timer. Just couldn't get it up. But Tanner following the play, and 4:37 left in the opening period. The score is still tied at 2.
Crowd of about 4,000 here for this one tonight, and we have a face-off coming up to the left of John Tanner. 2-2 is our score. Off the draw, played off the boards by Murray, and he has scored both Sudbury goals. Pearson with both for Oshawa. Craven starting from behind his net. Up on the wing, it skips off Looock, picks it up off the wall and sweeps it in. Tanner cuts it off behind the net. He'll backhand it, And around the boards, it skips off Craigwell. Murray deflecting it, and away comes number 9, Jamie Matthews, to the wing, and a shot by Young is wide. Coming down is O'Donnell. Loose puck in front of the net. Tipped at backhand. Scores! A natural hat trick for Glenn Murray. Single-handedly bringing on Sudbury from behind and now into the lead.
Well, we see it again. Oshawa a little bit sloppy in their own zone. And here we go on the rebound. It looks like Brathwaite may have got a piece of it, if not, it tucked up under his arm. As you see, Oshawa's man-to-man coverage, horrible. Yeah, Brathwaite didn't touch it. 15:56, the time of the go-ahead goal for the Sudbury Wolves. You would have thought 5 minutes into this hockey game that it would have been a rout for the Oshawa Generals. Have things turned around since then?
Ralphie, everything that could go wrong for Sudbury did go wrong for Sudbury, and now here they are in the lead. Murray with a natural hat trick. 4 on the postseason. Matthews and O'Donnell assisting at 15:56, and a great job by Jamie Matthews to get all of that started. Here's Matthews again. And the native of Amherst, Nova Scotia, dropping it off. Murray clanked it off the iron. He was that close to number 4. Lindros back. Pearson being held up by Murray at center. Lindros centering. Pearson, a shot blocked. And Jason Young for Sudbury coming out to the neutral zone. Young had it knocked off his stick, and then Lindros stepped into him for good measure. Loose puck out at center, and here's a 2-on-1 shaping up. Young dropped it off. Here's the shot. Convery right on rebound. Young a backhander, and he missed the net. Convery tips it back. Murray is still out there. Tried the wraparound, or was thinking of it. Bennett a drive, got through. It's blocked. Craigwell. Convery a shot. Craigwell. Puck is bouncing around on him, and finally he found the handle. And look at this. Here we go again.
And Lindros and Bennett, 2 of the top players, getting involved in this one. And we've seen Eric show a lot of control so far in this hockey game, but he doesn't really seem too pleased at this point.
Mass against mass. Here is Murray, that much closer to his 4th goal in a row.
Scary.
And let's watch what happened afterward. All starting with a bump here and a bump there after Brathwaite couldn't hang on to the rebound. Look at it jumping around on him. Here's another shot. Can't hang on to that one. And then he hooks the stick out and pulls it in and goes, phew. Lindros and penalties coming up with 3:03 left in the first period. Sudbury 3, Oshawa 2 on the OHL Game of the Week on the Global Television Network.
Welcome back. Coming up in our first intermission, a conversation with Paul O'Hagan of the Generals. We'll meet Terry Crisp of the Calgary Flames, and first period highlights. There were 1 or 2. Let's go back upstairs to Jack and Ralphie.
1 or 2, is he kidding? It has been quite a first period, and teams have blown off some steam. This is a very important game, and the Sudbury Wolves, who are trying to fight their way back into this, they are down 2-0. The Generals at home want to, of course, pretty well all but salt this one away, heading back into Game 4 in Sudbury on Sunday. I guess to a certain extent it's predictable. I'm willing to predict that things will calm down in the second period. They're going to get it out of their system early, because this game, as long as it remains close, neither team can afford to start losing top players to the penalty box or giving up power plays to the opposition.
Well, a little scary when you look at looks like an all-star team in the penalty box.
Bennett and Young for Sudbury. Lindros and O'Hagan for Oshawa. They're all minor penalties for roughing at 16:57. A little more 3-on-3.
How would you like to start a junior franchise with those 4 players, Jack?
I wouldn't mind starting an NHL franchise with some of those players. Ken Mckenzie has to be a little happier than he was when we zoomed in on him just prior to Murray's first goal with his team trailing 2-0. They have responded rather well
Well, you could see at the start of the game, Jack, Oshawa had this cockiness about them that they were in control of the series. They came out, and there's nothing wrong with a team playing cocky. I mean, the Edmonton Oilers were accused of doing that for years while they were winning Stanley Cups. But it seemed right after Glenn Murray's first goal, and then 18 seconds later he ties it up, Oshawa seems to have changed from being cocky to very frustrated, and they're doing everything they can to get back into it, but tempers are a little short on the general side.
Swept away by Tanner along the boards, and Sudbury coming away. Both teams are shy 2 men. Rivers has lost his helmet, but he found the puck. Passing off. Here's the shot. Rang off the glass. Rivers poking. Rebound. And it's deflected away. Matt Hoffman, number 12, dropping it back. And here is Davis losing it. And the move by Bob Berg failed to work. Here's Barry Young with it. Young in over the line to the slot. Is shot right on. And standing in there is Brathwaite to make the stop. Davis. 1:05 left in the penalties to both teams. Davis takes it all the way down in front of the net, looking for Hoffman, and Berg will pick it off, circling the goal, and he's being followed by an old teammate in Rob Pearson, and Berg will clear it back into the Oshawa end. Trayvis handing off. Craigwell away. Craigwell gains the zone. Rivers can't take him off the puck. Craigwell dropping it back off the skate of Pearson, and it was in on goal. Here comes Matthews with one man back. It's Craven. Matthews gets in there, and his shot is over top of the net and to the side, where Brathwaite hands off to Craigwell, and there's 25 seconds left in the penalties. Craven accepting a pass, drops over the line, hands off to Pearson as he took a check. Pearson shot right on, and Tanner made the pad save. It's Craigwell back in the corner. He's been clotheslined by Jamie Matthews, and the crowd is rather upset that there was no penalty to follow. Craven rolled over his stick, gets it back, turns side of the net, and he was looking for Pearson, and he was rolled over. Penalties have expired. It's going to get awful full out there. Matthews steers it off the boards and out to center ice. Less than a minute to go in this opening period. Lindros pumps once around Young, and his shot is wide. And back at the point, O'Hagan keeping it in. Here's a shot right on, and Tanner will cover up.
Well, maybe we can get a look at that last one by Eric Lindros off the wing. I spoke a little earlier about John Tanner pulling up, and he doesn't seem here. We're going to get a pretty good shot of it right here. Watch Tanner. Shots right along the ice, and you'll see him lift. See that little move as soon as the puck's released, and had that puck been on net, I don't think Tanner would have been able to move to see it. I was impressed with him when I saw him play up in North Bay earlier in the season, but he seemed a little more in control. He was down on the shots a little more, and I think it's he's in a tough situation coming in, where he did get pulled the last game in Sudbury, was beaten twice early in this hockey game, and now really is a character test for him. He's really got to put his head down and try to bear through this, because it's pretty tough. There's a lot of emotion and mayhem.
That's a good word.
I mean, all around him.
35 seconds left in the period. Chitteroni will be offside with a little help from Scott Looock. Alistair still couldn't get out of the zone. Well, the Sudbury Wolves have to be a lot more pleased with the way this period is going to end up than the way it started, when Oshawa took a 2-0 lead barely 4.5 minutes into the game. Sudbury would get a power play and quickly nullified when Berg took a penalty. There was the disputed offside call on a breakaway by Chitteroni, and then things completely turned around. Sudbury wins the faceoff. Number 2 is Adam Bennett, first-round draft pick of the Chicago Blackhawks. Cleared out at center off the stick of O'Donnell. Bennett guarding. Looks away from Hoffman, lost the puck, lobs it off the boards. J.P. Davis with it at center. 10 seconds left in the period. Chitteroni hit from behind by Lindros with the stick. O'Hagan clips it ahead. O'Donnell clears it out. That is going to be the end of this first period. It took a while, Ralphie. It took a long while, but maybe things will settle down from here on in as the game remains close. The Sudbury Wolves want to concentrate on keeping the offense rolling. That has been their big problem thus far in the series. It's been a problem scoring goals, but it's been no problem for Glenn Murray in the first period with a hat trick, giving Sudbury a 3-2 lead on the Oshawa Generals. We have a busy first period intermission coming up. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the Oshawa Civic Auditorium. Sudbury Wolves lead the Oshawa Generals 3-2 after a period of play. This period was like a cat. It had 9 lives, all kinds of different story angles as the 20 minutes progressed, and it took over an hour to play. You'll recall right off the start that the Generals had 8 shots on goal before Sudbury could muster any. They take a 2-0 lead. Then all of a sudden, everything Sudbury can throw at the net goes in. Unbelievable as they get 3 goals, all from Murray, to take a 3-2 lead after 1 period of play. Coming up later in this intermission, we'll be talking with Terry Crisp, and in a few seconds we'll be talking with Marshall Johnson as well, who is involved in the New Jersey operation here, scouting the game. Plenty of scouts come to this game. Anytime Lindros plays, of course, the scouts are lined up around the building, and they have some competition because the fans are lined up as well, and Lindros involved in some fights as well as some scoring plays in that first period of play. We're going to speak right now to Marshall Johnson as he sort of comes into my left. We'll put a mic on him and ask him what's going on in the first period as far as he is concerned from a scouting standpoint. And Marshall is now mic'd up. Marshall, an interesting period of play, almost like a pro hockey game in that there's all kinds of rough stuff, and eventually it's turned around, and Sudbury comes back almost from the dead.
Well, in the fact that it took an hour to play the first period, Jim, I guess it was, in a sense, pro-style playoff hockey. Obviously, Sudbury a little bit desperate. They're down a couple of games, coming back in here for the 3rd game, which, if they don't come out with something, is really going to put them down. And I think that started right off the bat that they felt that maybe one way to take Oshawa off their game, and maybe get a guy like Lindros and Pearson and some of their guns maybe into penalties, foolish penalties. That was maybe a tactic. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. That period they're ahead 3-2, so maybe the tactic's working.
Now, when you're scouting this game, does Sudbury maybe show you something you didn't know they had?
Well, be quite honest with you, they have a player out there, Jason Young, who you know, hasn't played a whole lot this year, and so now he's eligible for the playoffs. And he, along with you know, a guy like Murray, who is available for the draft, and Chitteroni, that, you know, that's specifically why I'm here. I heard you mention when I came in about Lindros. Well, I don't think there's too many of us that need to see Lindros, Jim, you know. But in any case, that's, you know, basically why we're here.
Let's talk a bit about Eric, though. You run into this problem, and I know it happened to Mike Ricci a year ago, where he's over-scouted. I'm not saying that Eric is, but you got to believe if he's here another year, he certainly would be.
Well, that's for sure. You know, I think that, you know, he's pretty much, in the last couple of years, has pretty much, you know, done his thing in terms of he's shown it. I mean, there's not a whole lot left he can do, really, and I think that we all run the risk, and more so maybe with him, but you become overcritical, right. You know, and instead of looking at the good things, you're just trying your darndest to see what's wrong with somebody, not only Lindros, but it might be somebody else, and that's a trap that you can get into very easily.
All right, Marshall, thanks very much for stopping by. And we'll be back with more of our first intermission as the OHL Game of the Week continues on the Global Television Network. Welcome back to Oshawa. A wild first period. Sudbury rallies to take a 3-2 lead over the Oshawa Generals. We meet now Terry Crisp of the Calgary Flames. Terry, quite a wild first period, to say the least.
Well, again, if you're looking for closing time, you better get here in a hurry, or else put your pajamas on, because the way they start out, maybe in the second and third, they'll settle down, play a little bit of hockey. They certainly weren't trying to in the first 10 minutes of that period. Okay, we heard Marshall Johnson's assessment now from the Calgary Flames and Terry Crisp's point of view. How do you see the prospects out in the ice? There certainly is a ton of them. Again, I always loved, I got a soft spot in my heart for junior naturally, because having spent 6 years in the league, I love junior hockey players. I think they pay their dues, they pay the price, they've traveled the buses, they get hit. The thing I think that I like most about it now is that there's a great blend. You got the nice, big, skilled hockey player out there now, and you've got the little skilled hockey player, and thank goodness we're finding a place in our game for all of them. The big skilled one, the little skilled one.
I guess you could say, to take that a step further, it really mirrors the pro game.
In so much as, yeah, because I guess when you look back now, Kenny Linsman was probably a pioneer way back when Kenny was doing it for little guys. Theron Fleury come along now, and he's opening up the gates. When you watch the game tonight, if you just take it, as you said, one step further, you're watching pro teams the way they're building now, exactly the same way these two clubs out here are building.
Now, is there anybody you've seen in that first period that you sort of made a note beside and said, gee, I didn't think I'd be writing about this guy?
I like a few of the players out there. I think that little number 9 for the Sudbury Wolves, Jimmy Matthews, I think he's a clever little hockey player. He set up some nice goals. He's always got the puck. Your goaltender, I felt sorry for Oshawa. I shouldn't say your goaltender, I'm sorry, but Oshawa goaltender. No work, then suddenly the Sudbury Wolves are coming right down his throat, driving to the net, making it all happen out there. And you got to like that number 27, Glenn Murray. He's got a hat trick early in the game. Could have had 4.
Yeah.
Hit the post coming back, so he's working out there. I think both clubs have got some kids that are trying out there.
Now, Eric Lindros scouted into the ground, reported into the ground. Could this guy play in the NHL today?
I'd be awful stupid if I said, no, he's not going to play today. Probably Kovacs or somebody else would want to shoot me out there. I think, yeah, whatever Eric Lindros wants to do, he's going to do. You can tell out there. I've only seen Eric play 3 times this year. It's my 3rd time. And it's entirely up to him as to what he wants to do. He can either totally dominate or totally float or own the puck or not give a care. But to answer your question, yes, he can play in the NHL today.
Does he remind you of anybody from maybe 20, 25 years ago?
I'd like to be able to say myself, but I should be lying.
so would I, but let's get serious.
No, I shy away from comparing kids to anybody because it's not fair to them. It's an era way back when. Eric Lindros, in his own right, is the best hockey player coming along right now, and God bless him, good luck to him.
Okay, a year ago you're behind the bench. Now a year later you're in an intermission studio scouting junior hockey games. How has that transition been for you?
First part, tough. Really tough, because I've been on the firing line, pardon the pun, for 20 years.
Yes, you were.
And then suddenly, bingo, you're out of it. And for the first time in, say, 27 years, I didn't hit the ice in September when training camp opened up and it all started. So it was quite a revelation to me. And then I finally settled into my routine of being director of player development for the Calgary Flames. And then slowly you step back and say, okay, maybe this is a year where I take off, step back, see what it's all about, and don't get as much tunnel vision as you get as a coach. That's not to say in the future I would like to get back behind the bench, because that is my first love.
All right, Terry, thanks very much for stopping by.
Hey, my pleasure anytime.
Okay, we'll be back with first period highlights right after this timeout as the OHL Game of the Week continues in the Global Television Network.
Our Midas first period summary will show 5 goals, but just 2 names. Rob Pearson with his 3rd at 1:41, and then a power play goal by Pearson at 4:38. And it gave Oshawa an early 2-0 lead. And then it's all Glenn Murray after that. 7:58 was his first goal of 3 in a row from Sean Rivers. 7:58, and then 16 seconds later at 8:14, Rivers and Matthews assisting again, and then O'Donnell and Matthews getting through to get Glenn Murray his 3rd in a row at 15:56. And it wasn't long after that he rang one off the post. It could have been 4 straight. Shots favoring the Generals 17-13, and by my count 42 minutes in penalties assessed in the period. Sudbury with 23, Oshawa with 19.
I want to thank Marshall Johnson for stopping by in our first intermission. Paul O'Hagan was originally scheduled, but you know, they've just refinished painting the wall in the dressing room of the Generals because it was peeling off from the speech from Rick Cornacchia, who had to be a little revved up at his boys and obviously didn't want to distract and have Paul O'Hagan come in to our intermission. So we thank Marshall Johnson for that. Nice to see Terry Crisp as well.
He's a great guy. You know, they talked about him when he was coach of the Calgary Flames, said he was too hard on the players and he got too emotional in games. But you sit down and talk with him like you did, and you talk to a very funny man, a guy great to be around.
You know, and he survived a friendship with Ralphie, so he's all right.
See, I've seen, never saw Crispy for about 4 years. Now I've seen him 5 times in the last 3 months.
I know, he was mentioning that to me.
3-2, Sudbury in the lead, and both teams at full strength. Out at center, Mason Young giving chase. He will be held up by big Wade Simpson. Side of the net, Craven from behind will play it up on the wing. Craigwell accepting a pass at center. Craigwell will be offside as Jan Binda got a little help from Alistair Still to cross the line ahead of the play.
Well, the opening face-off took place almost an hour and a half ago, and if this continues, we will in fact be live tomorrow afternoon in our regular time slot. We'll probably be giving the third period live, and then we'll go back and show the first two.
That overtime can really crunch things up, can it?
Right.
By the way, what day is it, Ralphie? Oh,
tomorrow or today?
Never mind. I don't want to confuse you. You're having enough trouble.
Puck rolls back into the Oshawa zone. AP Davis on the wing. Hoffman gets around Still neatly, plays it back to Davis, carries across with Lindros going to the net. The pass is in his skates, and a bouncing puck dribbles in on John Tanner. You have to wonder, especially the way Tanner settled down after the opening 4 or 5 minutes, if that's just his way of putting himself into a game. He took a couple of slashing minor penalties, certainly involved in all kinds of things around the net, and he hasn't given up a goal since 4:38, although certainly the flow of the game has been down into the Oshawa zone.
Well, it did work for a certain fellow who played tennis, who liked to throw his racket and do the stomp all over the court, and he won quite a bit, and maybe that's what you have to do to motivate yourself.
Yeah. And Martinez gone on to be one of the greatest athletes.
Nice.
Rivers drops it back, picked off Davis a shot, and it's off a leg in front of the net and then off the leg of the referee. Daryl Borden attempting to get out of the way as Hoffman bangs one in front, and it comes off to the boards. Davis keeping it in. Hops into Lindros. He's cut off. Played back. Cleared by Stoss to center. And O'Hagan will stand in and drill it in. Tanner started to follow the puck into the corner and then gets back in the net. J.P. Davis, number 27. Back to O'Hagan. Both with the Memorial Cup champions of last year. Tanner gets back there. Lindros. Quick shot off the board. Sharp angle missed the net. And away comes Stoss on right wing. Stoss, Chitteroni, and Berg, the front three. They're trying to get their offensive game in gear. So far, they have not been a factor in the series. Hoffman gets an opening at the blue line, cutting in on goal, and a shot banged out on the rebound, and it hit the side of the net. What a chance for Oshawa. There's a shot by Trevor Burgess. And around the boards it goes on the far side, and Burgess will cut it off. Dumps it back in the corner. Chitteroni steering it for Berg, cleared to center, and Grieve will flag it down. Gets by O'Donnell. It's called on 2 lines. 3-2 Sudbury leading 2 minutes and 11 seconds into the second period on the OHL game of the week. Face off just inside the Oshawa blue line after that 2-line pass. Sudbury with the face-off, rolled into the corner. Burgess behind the net.
Come on, Waiver.
Trevor Burgess from Canada. Dumps it out through center. Down the ice. There will be a race for it. O'Donnell fighting off number 20. That's Weaver. And Tanner went in after the puck. And Weaver's lost his helmet. Side of the net. Played to the boards. And the net's been knocked loose.
You could see that. It was almost a plan by Barry Young, who had his paw on the crossbar, and as soon as the puck came around, he was going to yank it off. One thing we noticed about Tanner, you go back about a minute, when he had control of the puck, he just fired it right at one of the Oshawa players, who in turn fed it back in. And I think we noticed that weakness in North Bay as well.
Well, we got to look at him here wandering, and sometimes that could be an advantage. I know when Eddie Jockman used to do it for the New York Rangers years ago, the defenseman always said he was like a third defenseman on the ice for them. But when you get into a situation like here in the playoffs, if you give up, if he ends up giving up, say, the tying goal in his hockey game because he's trapped 40 feet out of his net, that becomes a huge turning point. So I really think you've got to be careful. You've really got to pick your spots when doing this. Ron Hextall has been criticized the same way for not picking his spots all the time. It's one thing to be an aggressive goaltender in behind the net, but you've got to be smart as well.
I think that's an excellent point. So many times you see a play and you go, now why did this guy do this at this time of the game?
Yeah.
Mike Pekka taking it up for a shot, kicked out. And the rebound will be taken out of harm's way by J.P. Davis. Backhanded by Murray. He has a hat trick in this game, which has put Sudbury in front 3-2. Along the boards, Generals digging to get it out at center. It's up for grabs. Barry Young to Matthews. Spinning off of Hoffman, and he dumps it down in the corner. Davis for Oshawa. And he'll start this rush. Except his pass gets by Lindros. Barry Young beating Matthews. Gains the zone. Matthews tees it up. He scores! Jamie Matthews makes it 4-2 Sudbury.
It's funny now, that's the guy that Crispy had circled on his little scouting report and said, watch this guy, he's a heck of a hockey player, and boy did he let a rifle go right here.
Here we see it, cuts to the middle, and you really can't fault Brathwaite on that one. He just steps into it and gets all of it. Matthews had 2 assists in the first period and has now added his 3rd point, and we're going to get a goaltending change as Mike Fountain is coming onto the ice, and that's it for Brathwaite. And I'm pretty sure that in the eyes of Rick Kornacki, this is just a move to try to get the Generals going. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Brathwaite come back in.
Well, I think you're right, Ralphie. I mean, there's nothing he could do on that particular shot, and every once in a while you've got to give the shooter some credit for being able to blow the puck by a goalie at will, and which happened on that particular play, and certainly wasn't his fault that he didn't get some action early in the first period. We'll be back with more of the OHL Game of the Week right after this timeout.
Mike Fountain getting warmed up now, and Mike Fountain had the 3rd best goals against average in the league this year, 3.31 in 37 games played. 22-6-1 is his record, but he's only appeared in 3 minutes in the playoffs. And what happened was, when Oshawa got off to a rough start in game number 1, Rick Kornacki just took out his goaltender to try and get his team going a little bit. But play went on for about 3 minutes after the change, and Kornacki couldn't get Brathwaite back in. However, Rick Kornacki is just as confident with Mike Fountain in the goal as he is with Fred Brathwaite.
Well, Fred Brathwaite, of course, the hero of last year's Memorial Cup when he led the Oshawa Generals over the Kitchener Rangers in the final. But the playoffs have a funny way of making different players heroes, and Mike Fountain might very well get a chance to see what he could do and go for the Generals, and maybe, who knows?
Well, I'm not sure. Brathwaite is standing off to the side of the bench. He is not on the bench. He is in the alleyway leading back toward the dressing room. The headgear is off, but I don't think anything else is off. And Jimmy, you might be right. He could be back in this game. 4-2, Sudbury leads it on Jamie Matthews' first of the playoffs from Sean O'Donnell at 3:17. Adam Bennett at center. Rolls it in along the boards, cut off behind the net by Fountain, and back to Benda. Jan Benda clearing it out at center. Bartley using his reach to pick it off. Off the boards to Jason Young. Young is intercepted. Craigwell can't get loose, thanks to a good defensive move by number 8, Wade Bartley. Still in the corner, and he slaps it to the far boards. Scott Looock had it stripped away by Young, still moving in on the puck, cannot hang on. And it comes loose to the near corner, and Brandon Conbury, number 12, is there for Sudbury. Throws it out in front, and they can't get the shot away. Conbury stood up, and he couldn't shoot. Benda coming away, handing off to Looock on right wing. Gains the zone, and he dumps it in wide of the net, and still waiting for it along the boards. Can't get it through Simpson. Locked in front, Bartley away, handing off to Conbury through center along with Jason Young, and Conbury is hauled down, and the Generals go to offense. At center, Craven takes the puck behind him, but he can't come up with it. Benda from the neutral zone, bouncing one in, and it comes around to the far boards, and Claire Cornish, number 19, is there for Oshawa. Rolled off by Tanner. Matthews make that number 16 Young. Can't clear it. Conbury's having trouble. Now gets some room at center and plays to the boards. It's banged in by Jason Young, and Oshawa and Sudbury are both going to change on the go. Cornish at center, lost his stick throwing that one in. Tanner backhands to the corner, and along the boards, Cornish cutting it off at the point. A shot through a screen, and it didn't reach the net. Bartley will clear, and it will be down on goal. Mike Fountain on in relief here. 4-2, Sudbury in the lead. At center, Cornish with Hollis. The pass went to Burgess too far. And O'Donnell banks it back to the line. Weaver holding it in. Cornish trying to get loose. And the puck is stripped away. And Stoss will move it out. And here's Kovacs. 2-on-1 with Chitteroni. Takes the pass. Scores! To Sudbury, and 5 straight goals, and that time Chitteroni finishing off a play which was started by Bill Kovacs.
You know, it's kind of funny, Ralphie, as we look at this again, almost every time the Wolves have attacked since they got over that bad first 10 minutes, right down the middle, right in on goal.
Well, I'll tell you something else. If you would have told me that the score would be 5-2 5 minutes into the second period, I might have agreed with that.
Yeah.
But not in my wildest dreams would I have thought Sudbury would come back to score 5 straight goals to take control of this hockey game.
Well, they don't get in the Oshawa zone that much, but when they're there, boy, do they make it count.
Kovacs and Rivers assisting on Chitteroni's first of the postseason, and that has to breathe a sigh of relief into the entire Sudbury bench. Chitteroni was their leading scorer this year. Kovacs and Rivers assist at 5:33. In the neutral zone. Off the boards, and here is Murray digging it out. And the Wolves will clear as Rivers goes high with that flip shot out at center. Matthews stood up. Murray looked like he was scot-free there for a moment, but the play goes offside. So Sudbury explodes again here in the second period, and they have now taken a 5-2 lead on the Oshawa Generals on the OHL Game of the Week.
Welcome back. Let's go over the Brood out-of-town scoreboard. Saturday night action. Sault Ste. Marie and Hamilton against the Dukes. The Sioux leads that series 3-0. It could end tonight at Kitchener in the Falls. Niagara Falls leads that 2-1, a couple of overtime games. That should be a feud as well.
And in this one, Sudbury trying to fight their way back into the series, trailing 2-0, but leading 5-2. Face-off is outside of the Oshawa blue line. And it finds Sean O'Hagan for Davis. Davis drills it down in the corner. Off the boards, Barry Young. Bouncing puck. Chitteroni can't get a stick on it. And in behind the net it goes. And it will be Lindros taking his man Bennett to the boards. Chitteroni has the puck. Slides it out at center with a clever move, picking it up and lost it as he hit the line. It rolled down on Mike Fountain. And Fountain will clear to the corner. Davis watched by Chitteroni. Racing for the impact. Rolls back. Murray a shot. And he didn't miss that one by much. Matt Hoffman, number 12, to Davis at center. 2-on-2 with Pearson. Davis drops it off. Pearson spun around. Lindros picked it up. And to the boards. Lindros out of the corner, centering it in front. And Davis couldn't hit the net. Played out at center. O'Hagan tracks it down at his line. O'Hagan for Pearson. Pearson gets turned around with the Wolves on a line change. And the play is to Hoffman at the blue line. Here's Davis in front and gathered off the ice by John Tanner and held for a face-off with 12:44 to go in the second period. The Sudbury Wolves 5, the Oshawa Generals 2. Jack Miller with Jim Ralph and Jim Tatti at Game 3 of the Leyden Division quarterfinal series between the Oshawa Generals and Sudbury Wolves. Game 4 back in Sudbury on Sunday night. And Brandon Convery looking on. And quick word back to his goaltender, John Tanner. The face-off to the right of the Sudbury net between Convery and Craigwell, won by the latter. Scott Looock dropped it back, point Simpson. In wide of the net, Craigwell off the boards. Pushed to the boards by Convery. And a race for the puck. Sudbury flips back. Simpson had it come off him. And I believe an offside call is what we have here.
Ralphie, a lot of people get upset about the physical aspect of the game when we get into these scraps. But I think you can plainly see that the Wolves have taken that aspect away from the Generals. And they've controlled the game ever since that stuff broke out in the first period.
Well, I think as Jack was saying that they've kind of calmed down. They're starting to play hockey again. And it's going to stay that way unless it's apparent that Sudbury is going to win big in this hockey game. And if that happens, the last 4 or 5 minutes of this one, gentlemen, let's get the coffee going, because it could be drawn out.
If I'm the coach of the Generals, I call a timeout and I tell the boys, let's win the game back physically, and the scoreboard will take care of itself.
Well, that's always been a theory of teams. You end up way behind. You say, fellas, let's go out, let's dominate them, let's win a period, let's win half a period, or whatever, to try to get some confidence back. But because the emotions are going to be so high, Oshawa with a win tonight could take control of the series, obviously, if they go up 3-0. If they don't, the frustration's going to be there. They've got to go back to Sudbury, and now all of a sudden the Oshawa Generals look human as a hockey team.
Well, gentlemen, lest we forget that in the last game these two teams met, Oshawa needed just 3.5 minutes to score 3 goals. They are the most explosive offensive team to come along in a long time, and there's still better than half a game left. This will be a 2-line pass.
So I guess Jack doesn't buy our theory at all.
Nope, not with the Oshawa Generals. With any other team, I would say yes, but too much firepower and too much time.
All right. We'll
you can see what Sudbury. You can see what Sudbury is trying to do now is just play what they call good road hockey. Dump it in, nothing fancy, give nothing away, and I mean with a 3-goal cushion, it's pretty good. But the one thing I will agree with you, Jack, Oshawa can get 1 goal, get this crowd back into it, get the team pumped up again. And then who knows?
So cliche 51A, paragraph 2, page 39. The next goal is a big one.
It's a big one. Yes.
Yes, guys.
Yes, guys.
Where have I heard that before? Jason Young off the faceoff, comes to center, gains the zone, and tacks it down in the corner. Bennett lost it behind the net, where it's cleared back by Mike Fountain. And by the way, Fred Brathwaite is now at the end of the bench, so I would think it's Fountain's game. Tanner will wait for the puck to come to him, and then he will sail one up to the line. It bounced off Cravich to the wing. Pekka working to pick it up, but he is beaten to the puck by Simpson, who lost it. Convery moving in, short side shot, pad save, rebound. Pekka can't get the backhander working. Bennett will try something forehand, and he let it go, and it hit something in front of the net. And away come the Generals, and Eric Lindros, he'll come right to the defense, but not through. There was some excellent defensive work by the Sudbury Wolves, but a penalty is coming up as a result of it. So the Oshawa Generals are going to the power play for holding, and Eric Lindros will likely just remain out on the power play. 5-2, Sudbury leading. Generals with a man advantage coming up.
All right, let's take a look at it here, and you're right about the Generals being able to turn a situation around in a hurry. Lindros bearing in on goal, and O'Donnell is forced to take him down. Gets 2 minutes.
Well, Jimmy, I know Terry Crisp at the intermission said Eric Lindros is the type of player that can do whatever he wants. If he wants to take control of a game or take charge of a game, he can. And we saw a bit of it right there on that play where he forced the Wolves to take a penalty.
Generals with a man advantage for the 5th time in the game. They've scored once. And it will be Pearson working with Lindros and Cregwell. Davis and Looock back at the points. Lindros off the boards. Took the shot. Kicked out. Into the corner goes Kovacs against Cregwell. And Lindros is in there as well. But they'll have a date in the face-off circle to the left of John Tanner.
Well, it could be very interesting should they, as you mentioned, I know we've got half a game left, but if Sudbury manages to win this one, they go back up north for game 4. Who knows?
This game will be 5-3 within the next 30 seconds.
And a prediction, we're at 10.
All right.
10:48 left in the second period.
All right, let's see.
And if it isn't?
And Karnak.
And it'll be 5-2.
Or 6-2.
Yes, no.
Or 7-2.
Now Ralphie.
Let's not get carried away.
Actually,
hey, after what we've seen,
we did.
After what we've seen so far in this game, nothing would surprise me right now. I mean, I thought it was going to be a cakewalk for the Oshawa Generals in the first 5 minutes of this hockey game. Hasn't happened.
What do you want to bet? In our win-a-car shootout, both pucks go in. I mean, we've had everything. Let's do that.
I'd take that over the. Oh no, I'm not going to bet against that 30-second time limit either.
I wouldn't.
Davis, right point fakes along the boards to Cregwell. Back to Davis, looking for Lindros off the boards beyond his reach. And it will be cleared down the ice by Barry Young. Well, after all those penalties in the first period, Sean O'Donnell's holding call is the first of the second. Scott Looock, number 14. Out at center, and it's going to be stolen, and a break here. Jason Young shooting. You almost had it, Ralphie. You almost had the shorthanded prediction.
Oh, big time save there. Fountain saves the game.
He saves your prediction, too.
Almost as important, yeah.
And we take a look at it. Fountain, it's hard to say if he did get a piece of it. It almost looked like it went up off the crossbar.
I think it did.
Took off in a hurry, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
It was not a save. He was going top shelf.
Well, a great shot. What a quick release by Young on that. Fountain backing in, playing on the deep. You talk about a big goal. What would that have done to the Oshawa Generals? Ouch.
Put them 4 goals behind.
Very good, very good.
I was just wondering.
Better me than Tatti. Craven down the boards. 55 seconds left in the power play for Oshawa. Ryan Grieve accepting a pass, moving it off to Craven. Almost intercepted by Still. Wolves are up with it, but they can't clear. Banged into the left wing corner. Barry Young is in there, pinned to the boards. Puck comes loose. Gathered in by Claire Cornish. Back to Grieve at the blue line, handing off Kravitz. Took a shot, it bounced off Rivers into the corner. And now Hoffman steers back to Hollis. Back to Hoffman. And here's Hoffman tipping it back to the blue line. 20 seconds left in the power play. Grieve dumping it in. Off the boards, Cornish turning away from Barry Young. And the puck is contained there as well. They poke it loose. And Scott Hollis will set it up. High slot. Kravitz a shot. Nice save by John Tanner.
So, as I was saying, 30 seconds into the next power play, it'll be 5-3. Actually, if there is a point, or if there is an area of the power play that really disturbs me, it's the points in the Generals power play. Seem to have a little trouble controlling the puck and sending something up, although they got one away there.
Well, it's funny. I was talking about Oshawa being very cocky before, and that not necessarily being a bad thing, but sometimes what happens when a team that's cocky falls behind in a situation like this, then that cockiness turns to panic, and they get away from doing all the things they do so well naturally. And I think that's part of it, Jimmy, where they get back at the point. Now all of a sudden it's like having a jackhammer on top of the puck. What do I do with it? I got to get it away now. And as this game starts ticking away, it'll be interesting to see if the Generals' experience are going to lift them through this, or if maybe Sudbury is working on or exposing maybe the only Oshawa weakness.
Here's Rivers driving in on goal. Out in front. Matthews a shot, and it's stopped by Looock. Lindros at center with Pearson on the other side. He is stripped of the puck by Glenn Murray.
Okay.
2-on-1, Pearson and Lindros. Pass back. Lindros took the shot, and the pad save by Tanner, and Pearson was standing all alone at the other side if Lindros elected to go that way. Jamie Matthews, he's had an excellent game thus far. Backhanding it into the corner. Murray against Davis. Puck is behind the skate of Davis and still loose. They kick away at it. Now they hem it in. And will we get a face-off here? Daryl Borden has the whistle perched to his lips, but he's not breathing. Finally, we get a face-off coming up to the right of the Oshawa net. 8 minutes and 22 seconds left in our second period, with the Sudbury Wolves leading the Oshawa Generals 5-2 on the OHL Game of the Week on the Global Television Network.
Well, I think it's safe to say that John Tanner is back. Watch his save off Lindros, and this is a tough play. Lindros backing up. Tanner waits. And remember I said earlier I saw him pulling up on a couple of shots. Right there he stayed down in his crouch, followed the puck. Outstanding save.
I'll tell you what Lindros does that really surprises me. You guys had a nice rush towards the end of the first period. He seems to relax his body and then delivers the shot.
And I said he had Pearson open, but Adam Bennett removed that option, as we see very clearly from that last replay. 8 minutes left, second period. Sudbury leading by 3. Oshawa pressing. Deasley back to the right point. Kravitz one-time shot, missed the net. And hustling over for it is John Stoss to Bob Berg at center. And the Beamsville native dropping it back. Stoss looking for Chitteroni on the fly, but the play is broken up in front. Now it's Simpson for Oshawa. And the big guy goes down against Wade Bartley. And in the corner, the puck trickles loose. Stoss is on it. Stoss out at center, and Berg unsuccessfully getting around easily with the puck. It will be flipped out. And Simpson hauls it down at center. Tipped into the Sudbury zone. And Oshawa will change on the go. Played off the board. Simpson still out there. Will go back and pick it up. Simpson for Weaver. O'Donnell gets a piece of it. Convery back for Sudbury. Working close quarters on the boards against Weaver. And is slashed back to center. And O'Donnell waiting. And he spins one down. Ooh. Mountain had his heart take an extra jump there, as the puck did likewise.
Well, we get a look at Mike Fountain, who is come on to replace Fred Brathwaite. The Oshawa General goal. We mentioned in the pregame, Jack, that the Sudbury Wolves were 3-4-1 against the Generals this year. They were very close. Sudbury outscored Oshawa 32-30 in the season series. And I think we're getting a little taste this evening, but the Sudbury Wolves have played the Oshawa Generals very, very tough.
And really, if they're to win this game, they'd be down 2-1, which people would have predicted after 3.
Bennett shot deflected off the glass and out of play. You talked about watching to see how Oshawa will play from behind. It should be interesting to see how Sudbury plays with the lead, which they have now at 5-2. Lots of people here. Peepers too.
Yes, there are scouts around. Very good, Jack. Nice recovery. Sort of.
Welcome back.
Oh, are we on? Oh, gee.
Close to 4,000 peepers or whatever.
Oh, guy.
4,000 pair of peepers. In behind the Oshawa net. And Burgess looking for Hollis off the boards. And here is Cornish. Player Cornish having problems. Now the Port Perry native comes out to the neutral zone, throws it up off of Burgess, and it kicks into the Sudbury end. And Tanner out of the net again, but Weaver picks it off, and a bouncing puck in front. Michael Pekka will come away, and if Convery can get in the play, but Weaver is denying him that chance, so Pekka will take the shot. And it went off Weaver in front of the net, I believe. And back on the Generals, Hollis on left wing. Stood up at the line by Bennett. Goes for the puck and will bring it to center. Bennett for Convery. Off the boards, held up by Burgess. Now Convery and Burgess will take it an extra step farther under the watchful eye of the referee, and we may get penalties if they don't break it up soon. Mike Pekka. Wide of Mississauga. Working against Crave at center. Looock up with the puck, intended for Cregwell, batted away by Young, and Grieve has it back in his own zone. Ryan Grieve. Outlets to Cregwell. Looock in with McPherson 2-on-1, and Matthews barges in front and picks off the pass and comes away. He has Murray open on the right wing. He'll take it across the line. Now to Murray, and off his stick in the corner, bumping there with O'Hagan. They'll waltz the puck up and down the boards a little bit here, and now they'll waltz it right to the face-off circle. 23-19 are the shots favoring Oshawa. 5-2 is the score favoring Sudbury. The Ontario Hockey League playoffs. This game coming to you from the Oshawa Civic Auditorium, and the face-off will be to the left of Mike Fountain. There is Eric Lindros, most famous junior hockey face in North America, and probably better known than most NHL faces. J.P. Davis, good job of stick handling his way out of trouble, throwing it out at center where it's intercepted by Rivers, and he deposits that back in the Oshawa end, and Davis will pick it up in full flight behind his net. John Paul Davis at center, hands off to Lindros. Play is broken up by Rivers. Davis from the right side, and they jam it up along the boards. O'Hagan mishandled it initially, throws it back in behind, slashed away, and Davis will keep it in at the point. Davis to the corner, Lindros for Pearson. Pearson had his stick knocked off the puck by Matthews. Matthews rolls it to the far side. Jason Young had it batted away from him. Now a chance for Lindros. Puck rolling around in the slot. Pearson shot, and he missed the net. Boy, is he opportunistic or what? Behind the goal. Puck still in Oshawa clutches. Now Hoffman is ridden off the disc by Wade Bartley. And while the Generals have had pressure going, Ralphie, I think Sudbury has stood their ground very well back in their own end.
They certainly have. John Tanner has come up with a couple of outstanding saves. But I think right now the game plan for Ken Mckenzie and the Sudbury Wolves is let's just try to shut them down. Let's try to get out of this period without another goal against. And you see Rob Pearson coming close to completing the hat trick of his own. Pearson had 2 goals by the 4:38 mark of the opening period to put Oshawa up 2-0. Sudbury has come back with 5 straight. But I think very important now, let's shut the Generals down. Let's dump it out. Nothing fancy. Let's go to the dressing room with a 3-goal lead. And on the other hand, the Generals, if we can get one, go into the third on an up note, maybe something can happen in the third.
Rolled down on Fountain, and he's going to hold on. And here we go. There has not been much of this in the second period at all. It seemed as if they got it out of their system. And then with Sudbury holding on to the lead, Oshawa wanted to concentrate on getting back on even terms, but Sudbury added 2 more. And things have been quiet. Only 1 minor penalty in this period, but I think we're in for a few more here.
Well, to the credit of the Sudbury defensemen, Adam Bennett and Sean O'Donnell, they are staying back at the top of the face-off circle to the right of Mike Fountain, the Oshawa Generals goaltender. You can see them here. And that means, regardless as to what happens, the face-off should be inside the face-off circle.
Here they come now.
Outside the line. Well, so much for that theory, boys. It went on just a little too long. We've got to realize it's 5-on-3 inside the top of the circle. So I think Bennett and O'Donnell finally said, wait a minute, we got a numbers problem here. We better get involved. So
well, they figure if the officials can't get it broken up in the first 30 seconds or whatever, then it's time to at least give their teammates some moral support. Even if nothing more comes out of this than some yapping and a little pushing. And they will work to break all of this up, and maybe we can get back to a face-off here. I'll tell you one thing, Ralphie, it's kind of nice that we don't have a 1-hour second period like we did in the first.
Not yet. It went on just a little too long. We've got to realize it's 5-on-3 inside the top of the circle. So I think Bennett and O'Donnell finally said, wait a minute, we got a numbers problem here. We better get involved. So
well, they figure if the officials can't get it broken up in the first 30 seconds or whatever, then it's time to at least give their teammates some moral support. Even if nothing more comes out of this than some yapping and a little pushing. And they will work to break all of this up, and maybe we can get back to a face-off here. I'll tell you one thing, Ralphie, it's kind of nice that we don't have a 1-hour second period like we did in the first.
Not yet. We got 3:52 left.
Exactly 3:52 left in the second period. So while they break up this convention down in the Oshawa zone, we'll take a break in the Oshawa Civic Auditorium on the OHL Game of the Week.
Welcome back. Coming up in our second intermission, a conversation with Sean Rivers of Sudbury, pre-recorded conversation with Matt Hoffman of Oshawa, and Sherry Basson. Well, he lost his chalkboard, so he's going to be right here. Now let's go back up to Jack and Ralphie.
Jimmy, don't let them write on the walls. They just painted in there. There was the Longine Whitnauer promo of the game. Right now, you have to like a couple of those goals by Glenn Murray as the Longine Whitnauer play of the game. He has 3 of them.
Well, yeah, 3 very quickly, I guess. 7:58 the first one, 15:56 the third one. So we had about 3 goals in 8 minutes. Not too shabby, especially for a playoff game, as we again sit and try to get this mess number 404 figured out. And right now, would appear as if the Sudbury Wolves, Alistair Still and Bill Kovacs are going off. Okay, now we have the other penalties up for the Oshawa Generals. Wade Simpson and BJ McPherson.
Generals penalties, number 4, Wade Simpson, 2 minutes roughing. Number 18, BJ McPherson, 2 minutes roughing. Time penalty 16.
Minor penalties all around. Still high sticking and then roughing minors to Sudbury's Kovacs and Oshawa's Simpson and McPherson.
Well, now this is a little bit interesting, Jack. You've got to realize in junior hockey that even coincidental minors are served as far as the on-ice numbers go. So it'll be 3-on-3 for the next 2 minutes. And when you look at Mr. Pearson and Mr. Lindros out there for the Oshawa Generals, who do you favor?
Well, Oshawa has to like this because of that very reason. And J.P. Davis rounding out their trio. It will be Jason Young, Adam Bennett, as well as Sean O'Donnell for Sudbury. 5-2, critical point in the game from the Oshawa perspective, because they would like to get that 3-goal deficit reduced by the end of the period. Adam Bennett back to O'Donnell. And you might even get the impression, when given the chime, that Sudbury is going to play this as if they're killing a penalty, as opposed to being at even strength, which they are.
I think it's like I said earlier, they're just going to try to get out of the second period with a 3-goal lead, and they're going to be more than happy with that. Oshawa, on the other hand, may have to open this up. They've got their big guns, a lot of room, and here they come.
Authoritative pass to Lindros, handed back to Pearson. He skips in on the left wing. Pearson poke check by O'Donnell, right out in front. Lindros went top shelf and he missed it. Jason Young, an ill-advised play. There was nobody there for him to help clear it. Davis back, Pearson moving in. Tanner comes way out of the net. Pearson stood behind the red line. I mean, there was minus angle there. There was no way he could hit that one. We're going to get an icing call coming up. Now it's nullified as it's touched by Mike Fountain. Down in the corner. Davis comes away for Oshawa. 40 seconds left in the period. J.P. Davis will not get around Barry Young. Pearson in the corner. Hoffman goes to the net, looking for the pass. Whoops, Tanner took the net off the pins. He backed into it, and the crowd wants a delay of game penalty. And having watched that, I would say they have a case.
Well, I do, but something that struck me funny at the other end, Eric Lindros, without a stick, picked the puck up off the ice in the corner, dropped it back down, and shuffled it away. So if you want to get technical, I do believe that there is a rule regarding the gloving of the puck as we look at John Tanner, who didn't really do that great a job of making it look like an accident.
Now, subtlety was not a strong point there.
But the bottom line is that net was knocked off before the puck went in. Therefore, no thanks in the goal department to Rob Pearson. And right now, 2:21 left in the second period, 29 seconds left in the 4 coincidental minor penalties. Boy, we haven't said that much all night, have we, Jack?
Bob Pearson has plenty to say right now, doesn't he? He lost his case with referee Daryl Borden. And here's the face-off. Hoffman works around the circle. And Matt Hoffman, probably the quietest 99 points in the league this year. Still with it. Drops it off. Craven moving in, looking for Hoffman, and this could be a 2-0 break, except Chitteroni, who got the hook on. This will be called. Chitteroni got the hook around Craigwell, and he'll go off.
Well, I don't know. I can't wait to see this one again.
I don't think Chitteroni has a case.
Well,
he got it up there.
I may disagree a little bit, but
that's
just kind of a tug. I mean,
well, around
if you
the
want to
guy's
go
throat.
that far, I remember off a face-off, right at the start of the 3-on-3, Lindros put a nice hug on the Sudbury player that was breaking in. There was no call. Now all of a sudden it's a little different. I mean, I'm not denying there's a little hook there, but it didn't take him down. It just knocked him off stride. And I'm willing to bet this week's game fee on it, Jack, that we've seen a lot worse than that go by.
I wouldn't disagree with that. I'm just saying I don't disagree with the penalty call either, especially seeing as it resulted in the break, but whistle went before that. Bartley tees it up. They score. It bounced in off Fountain's glove. It's not a shorthanded goal because both teams still have 2 men in the box, but what a huge goal for the Sudbury Wolves.
Wow. You talk about big goals right off the face-off. A hammer one. You see Fountain gets a piece of it, but there's another case, Jack, not to be critical, but a shot that's about waist high or shoulder high. Mike Fountain drops to his knees, and it ends up bouncing over him, and we've seen that be the case a couple of times this evening where goaltenders have dropped down and been beaten top shelf, and it's kind of hard to figure it out. Wade Bartley's first goal of the playoffs.
His first point of the playoffs. Sean Rivers will assist. Wade Bartley in 47 games this year had 48 points, including 11 goals, and that one is huge. 6-2 Sudbury with 1:45 left in the second period, and now Sudbury is shorthanded. Rivers teeing it up from the blue line, and he scores.
Well, I think it's safe to say that Mike Fountain, who is going to be replaced after that one, is rattled.
He is. Look at this, right from the blue line. And it's not even right on the ice. It's right off the fingertip of his glove into the net.
And you see it comes just right at the blue line to the right. And I'll tell you, there's nothing worse in the world for a goaltender that once your confidence starts getting shaken, it's very tough to get it back. And now the predicament Rick Kornakia has, he's got two goaltenders that have had their shot and come up short so far in this game. 7-2 in favor of the Sudbury Wolves. And when it was 2-0 for Oshawa, 5 minutes into this hockey game, as the old professors might say, who'd have thunk it?
7 straight goals by Sudbury. Rivers has been in on 5 of them, a goal and 4 assists. And there's still a period left, but boy, what a big hole the Oshawa Generals have put themselves in, and we have many more choices for the Longines Wittenauer play of the game. Brett Brathwaite is back in goal. He was yanked at 3:17 of this period. However, Mike Fountain gave up 3 goals, including that last one from the blue line, and Brathwaite finds himself back off the bench and in net.
Well, I guess on the positive side, you look at John Tanner, as I don't want to harp on this too much, but was relieved of his duties in Game 2 in Sudbury and has come back with an outstanding performance through almost 2 periods here in Oshawa. So I'm sure, I'm positive Rick Kornakia is hoping his goaltenders, one of them, will be able to come back and be strong Game 4 in Sudbury.
Less than a minute to go, second period, and I caution you, the Generals have the firepower to put themselves back in this. Craigwell centering. Bennett moving it to the line. Kovacs at the line, shooting, and he missed the net. Off the boards, Alistair, still number 17 for Sudbury, working against Davis. And the puck comes loose to Davis off the boards. Moving to center with a half a minute left in the second period. It's cut off along the boards. Moving in there, and Tanner is down on his knees, and he has the puck.
Well, Jack, here's a scary statistic that is from the regular season, but when the Generals have scored the first goal during the regular season, they've got a record of 32 wins, 4 losses, 4 ties. They've scored the first goal here this evening, and it goes to show you one thing.
Sudbury didn't read the stats.
No, stats mean absolutely nothing once you get into the playoffs.
Amen. John Tanner has made some big stops at critical points in the game, and I give Sudbury every credit in the world, because after starting this game like they were going to explode, and I don't mean offensively, I mean self-destruct, they pulled their game together and have taken it away from Oshawa and have dominated. They have played outstanding hockey in their own zone. And when those shots have come through, John Tanner has been there. Right now he needs a new stick, and Sean O'Donnell will play postman here.
Well, a pretty scary start if you're a fan of the Sudbury Wolves. You would have thought there was a perfect scenario for them to be just blown out of the water in Game 3. They trailed 2-0 in the series coming into this one. But, as they say, stranger things have happened in the playoffs.
Brathwaite out of the net. 10 seconds to go in the period.
10 seconds, 10.
Back in the Oshawa zone. Scott Hollis taking it off the boards. Rolls it out at center. Got through Wade Bartley, but there will be no damage done as the second period has come to an end. And the Sudbury Wolves, who had a 3-2 lead after one, have scored 4 unanswered goals. John Tanner not allowing any here in the second period. The lead is sizable, but the game is not over. Our second intermission is coming up. Stay with us, folks.
Welcome back to the Oshawa Civic Auditorium. You see it and you got to believe it. Sudbury 7, Oshawa 2 after 2 periods of play. And I can give you 5 reasons why it's 7-2. This fellow right here, Sean Rivers, 1 goal and 4 assists so far. Sean, we could spend an hour talking about this game. It's almost like an encyclopedia. What happened in the first 10 minutes? They had you hemmed in, outshoot you 8-0 and lead at 2-0. What happened? What weren't you doing right there?
Well, I think what happened is that we ran into some tough calls by the referee. You know, we tried to come out and play a real tough game, try and get them off of their game a little bit, because they have been skating very well. Last game in our building, they really took it to us in the second period. And I think what we wanted to do was really try and set a tempo in the first period. And unfortunately, you know, we did run into a couple of bad calls. You know, that's the way it's going to go when you try and come out and play a tough style. But as it turned out, it's worked pretty well so far for us. And you stuck to that plan, and slowly but surely it started to work. Yeah, I guess we got a couple of breaks. We hadn't had that much luck lately, really, to be honest with you. And I think that it was about time that we got a couple of bounces. And, you know, that probably is a result of what the score is right now. Now, when you're in the dressing room, which, by the way, is right behind us, after the first period, you're up 3-2. Obviously, you don't want to get too confident, but what's said in there by your coach, Ken Mckenzie? I think what we've tried to do, especially Coach Mckenzie, he's always tried to bring us back to the basics, back to the fundamentals, the defensive zone, so forth, just to try and really keep our heads into it. And I think that when you try and stick to the basics, usually, you know, you'll find you'll come out further ahead than you do if you try and run and gun a little too much. All right, but, I mean, you come away with another 4 goals. You're up 7-2. Geez, everything's going in now. Yeah, I guess we stuck to our style, and we came in with a game plan to really try and tighten up defensively. Obviously it's a tough task to stop Mr. Lindros and company, but we've tried to tighten up defensively, and any kind of turnovers that we do get, we've really tried to capitalize on. And like I said, we've had a little luck going our way this game, so it's worked out pretty well. Now you're kind of in a spot, if you can be, leading 7-2 over Oshawa, but I mean, you have to maintain in the third period, because you don't want them, even though you might win the game, you don't want them to sort of gain the momentum for the next game, right? No, exactly. I think what we're trying to do right now is set a precedent for the next game. We're going back into our building, and we've had a real good year there in our barn. So I think what we're trying to do is really get some momentum to bring us back in our building and, you know, really take it from there in the third period. I think that's what we're looking for. All right, Sean, thanks very much for stopping by. Best of luck the rest of the way. Appreciate it. We'll continue with our second intermission in a pre-recorded conversation with Matt Hoffman right after this timeout. Welcome back to Oshawa. As we continue on here in our second intermission, we're joined by the left side of the Lindros-Pearson line. That'll be Matt Hoffman. Matt, welcome to our broadcast. And we mentioned you're on the left side of that line. Of course, the other two fellows seem to get a lot of publicity. How do you feel about that? Well, they deserve it. They're quite the players, and all the power to them. They deserve it. Sounds like you have a lot of fun out there. Oh, it's great. They're pretty easy going, especially in practice. Especially Robbie. He's quite humorous. He keeps it light in the locker room. Keeps it fun. Now, you strike me as a guy who's not exactly going to go around and talk about himself, but I mean, you did make a good transition from last year to this year, tripling your points pretty well. Yeah, I just had to, over the summer, Rick told me that I'd probably be playing with Eric, so I had to gear myself for that over the summer. I just worked and focused on that and let the chips fall where they may, and turned out for the best. They've been piling up, haven't they? You have some fun out there, don't you? Oh, yeah, great time. With Eric, you get in the open for a split second, he's got to the puck, and same thing with Robbie, so it can't hurt when you're scoring all the time, getting points, so it's quite fun.
Now, you're an interesting story in that you spend most of your time in Saginaw, go up to Huntsville, and then you sort of walk on to Oshawa.
It wasn't the short trip around, I guess that, but yeah, I got through a friend from who used to play for the Generals. He just contacted them, and they gave me a tryout with their Junior B team, and from there, I got sent to Huntsville. So, and they gave me, I had to put up pretty good numbers up there, so they offered me another tryout last year, and I got lucky and made it.
But we're talking about 3 years, right? I mean, 3 years ago today, you're back in Saginaw.
Yeah, I didn't know where my hockey was going from there. I wasn't, no colleges were, hadn't shown any interest in me, so I asked, I was Peter Horacek, who used to play for the Generals, that got in contact with the Generals front office, and I had really no idea who was doing it until after I came here. I didn't know it was him that had gotten me that, so I just, after the first year, I still didn't know who got me the tryout, and then I was just...
And for your NHL, you're pretty well in the same boat. I mean, you're up for draft. You're up for draft last year. You're up for draft this year. And if you don't get drafted, you'll pretty well have to go the free agent route.
Free agent route. I've done it once. I think I'll probably do it again, I hope. Again, that's just I'll have to work hard and let the chips fall where they may.
Well, at least you're having fun with it, Matt. And that's the most important thing.
I can't complain with the 2 years I played here with the Memorial Cup, and hopefully get there again and try for another one. And playing with Eric is quite the pleasure. I'll be able to tell my kids about it. And
well, maybe you'll probably be telling them about yourself. Thanks very much, Matt. We'll continue on with more of our second intermission from Oshawa right after this timeout. Remember, Meet the Professor is right around the corner. Welcome back to our second intermission here at the Oshawa Civic Auditorium. Time now for Ask the Professor or Meet the Professor. No, it's Ask the Professor, and the Professor is actually with us today. And Sherry, maybe you can tell us about the difference between regular season hockey and playoff hockey.
Well, it's Ask the Professor, that's right, that's what it is.
Oh, thank you.
Anyway, it's completely different season.
It's a spectacle.
You find out so much more about a player and a hockey team because of the pressure. First of all, it's a completely different situation. During the season, you play a team, you're on the bus, you're going home, or they're on the bus, you're going home. Now it's a completely different situation. You're meeting this team, you got to beat them 4 times. Out of a possible 7 games, you see them all the time, they're completely studying you. You really do find out something about that hockey club. And you really find out about the players themselves, about how they can prepare and focus. You know, you get a 2-3 game lead, what you're going to do about it. But here's what I want to tell you. An example we hear, you know about it, Lindros, don't you?
Yes.
You've heard the name before, okay?
Thank you.
You know what he does for this team here that we're going to talk about here, and especially in playoffs? It's not only how great he is and when you focus in on him, it's how much he makes the other players better. And a lot of people forget that about the stars and the superstars that we see. He specifically makes those players so much better. And that's one of the reasons. It's not only because of his ability that the Oshawa Generals are going to be overwhelming favorites. Make no mistake about that.
Now, it is Ask the Professor, right?
Yes, it is.
Can I do that now?
Okay, excuse me.
Now, what are the indicators during the season that you're going to have a character hockey team?
That's a good question, as a matter of fact. And I'll tell you what you look for. You look for the maturity of your youngsters. You look for the leadership from your older players. You look for how the goaltending at the key times, all those things, and the chemistry of a hockey team. And all those factors, because very often we'll be surprised and say, hey, how did that team possibly get beat? You see such good leadership. Make no mistake about it, in junior hockey, you're usually only going to go as far as your veteran players. If your veterans don't perform and show the good leadership, and then you take the Sudbury team with Convery and Peckin, if some of those rookies that have matured over the years really make a contribution, makes a difference.
Now, is it possible to mold this chemistry or character a week before the playoffs?
No. No. As a matter of fact, you're going to read that chemistry. I'll tell you what can happen, though. And that's a good point for the viewers to understand. I'll tell you what the factors are. If, in fact, you get a couple of wins, when you're not expected to get a couple of wins, and you get some spirit, then you really start feeling good about yourselves. But I don't think it can carry you all the way through the playoffs because it's a tough grind. I mean, I really believe that's a major factor in junior hockey. To be able to go through a grind like you're going to see series after series, these kids go to school with the focus on the Memorial Cup. And as you've said on your sports broadcast, numerous occasions, one of the toughest trophies to win because there's such a changeover of players all the time. Right. So consequently, it's very tough. I think you can win a series with it, but I don't think you can go all the way without it.
Now, quickly, is anybody going to unseat Oshawa?
I don't think so. And I'll tell you why. First of all, in order to beat them, they've got to play not as well, and you've got to play your best. And you're always saying if they don't play and we play our very best, I don't think you can do it for 4 games. I think something has to collapse, an injury, a key injury. And here's the key reason why. It's not only Lindros and all that talent. They got very good goaltending.
All right, Sherry, thanks very much. We'll continue with more from the Oshawa Civic Auditorium as the OHL Game of the Week continues right here on the Global Television Network.
Jack Miller with Jim Ralph and Jim Tatti welcoming you back to the Oshawa Civic Auditorium. 7-2 Sudbury. Any predictions, boys, as to how this third period will be played?
Yeah, I got a prediction. If the score doesn't change much, with 5 minutes left in the game, we better start ordering the pizza because this is going to be a long finish. I've just seen it happen too many times where a team is out of it, the frustration comes out, they get the mentality that if we can't beat them on the scoreboard, we'll take it to them late in the game and try to send a message out for the next one. That's my prediction.
The next goal will make it 5-3. Oshawa's oh, sorry, that's last period's notes. Oh, what a prediction that was, yeah.
I was quite willing to let it be forgotten. You want to bring it up again. Out of the center ice area, 7-2 Sudbury, and they're pressing for more. Or are they? Young out at center to O'Donnell. He turned back. He was not offside. Both teams at full strength. Generals will flip it out to center ice across 2 lines.
Well, I don't think there's any question, Ralphie, that Oshawa has to gain physical presence here in the third period. And don't think the Wolves aren't aware of that. If you heard Sean Rivers, he mentioned that that's exactly what the Wolves want to do because they're now thinking ahead, obviously, to Game 4 of this series.
Well, no, they had to come into this one with the idea they had to win it, same as Ottawa and Belleville the other night. That you can't go down 3-0 and have a good feeling. But I'll tell you something, there's got to be a huge difference in that dressing room. The Sudbury Wolves between the second and third period compared to the start of the game. I bet you it was a pretty quiet room before this one began.
Shots in the second period were very close. 8-7 Sudbury, but they scored on 4 of those shots. J.P. Davis out of his zone, off Pearson's stick, gathered in by O'Donnell and cleared to center, picked up by Murray. He has a hat trick. Drop back. Matthews shot wide. And Matthews has had a very good game as well. Lindros limited to 1 assist thus far. Oh. He flips it toward the net. It's cut off. And then Tanner is rolled over. There will be a penalty coming up against Oshawa.
Well, that was perhaps the most interesting series we've seen all game, and we'll get to it right after this timeout. Sudbury 7, Oshawa 2 in the OHL Game of the Week.
Eric Lindros goes for high sticking, and he high stuck John Tanner at 111 of the period. So Sudbury on just their 3rd power play of the game. They are 0 for 2. Sean Rivers with a goal and 4 assists in this one, and he plays it ahead. Left wing feed from Chitteroni to Berg into the corner following Craven. Centering attempt picked off by Simpson at the side of the net for Scott Looock on the boards and cleared out. Bennett having some problems. Craigwell up with the puck, sliding it back to Craven. Craven checks it ahead. Craigwell wisely let it go as he was across 2 lines, and now back comes Rivers. Right wing for Stoss. Chitteroni in check. Bouncing puck cleared ahead to center, and Bennett is there for Sudbury with 1:15 left in the Lindros penalty. Bob Berg will shoot it in, working with Stoss, Chitteroni, Rivers, and Bennett. Sudbury power play, and Berg can't shoot it out in front. Into the corner. Berg after it along the boards. Here is Simpson behind the net. His clearing pass will be blocked. Now kept in at the point by Rivers. Rolling out the helmet. Trayvis handing off to Craigwell. Takes his time and shoots at the length of the ice. 45 seconds left in the penalty. Wolves aren't really pressing. They're quite content to just kill off time as Oshawa is content to kill off the penalty. 5-goal lead for Sudbury. Berg handing off. Matthews at center. Over the line, handoff. Here's Murray to the outside. Murray looking for someone to hand off to, and it will be taken along the boards. Matthews up with it. Matthews looking to shoot, and it's blocked. And here come the Generals out of their own zone. Claire Cornish. 10 seconds left in the power play for Sudbury, but Oshawa has the puck. Cornish looks back along the boards. Bouncing there. Cleared by Rivers. Ahead he comes to center. Rivers. Young looking for Murray. Intercepted. Lindros is out of the box. He has the puck. He shoots right on. Tanner made the stop and is able to keep the rebound within reach.
Ralph, you talk about a goalie standing up properly. Tanner certainly did on that save.
Well, that was shot like a ton of bricks, too.
And speaking of shots, we have the OHL Game of the Week shootout. The first shooter will go for $100 worth of shell gas, and he happens to be Sean Hawley. Sean Hawley, the shell shooter. Sean Hawley, the shell shooter. And he's sizing it up, and the Shawner is going to drive, win it on goal. He scores! Yes! The OHL Game of the Week was a real gas for Sean. He gets $100 worth of gas now. The next shooter goes for the General Motors product, which happens to be the Pontiac Sunbird. Nice. The ball.
I got a bad feeling on this one.
All right.
Just shoot it,
Paul's
Paul.
going to line this one up. And let's see what the Paula does from the other blue line. Oh, drifting.
Sweep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, it's out of the house.
Nice save, Ralphie.
Well, Paul got a kick out of it.
Yeah.
That's a winner 2 weeks in a row.
Some weird things have been happening in the OHL Game of the Week. We are 9 weeks in, and we still haven't sorted it out.
And we're still on.
Well, you know, it's kind of a mystery for you, but...
I just didn't know if I could carry this whole show when we first started.
Obviously,
and we know you can't.
The inter-office mail is not working. Ralphie still hasn't gotten his memo.
On the ice, cleared off fingertips by John Tanner, and Trevor Burgess with it at center. Hartley for Sudbury. Clears it off Pearson. Mike Pekka ran himself off the puck. Stolen by Conbury and then taken back by Burgess for Oshawa, and his shot is nowhere near the mark. Back to Burgess. His shot deflected out of play, and we played 4 minutes and 3 seconds of the third period, and the score has remained the same at 7-2 Sudbury.
Well, you've got to admire the way the Sudbury Wolves have played. Hasn't been pretty, but they continue to lead 7-2 from Oshawa.
Faceoff coming up inside the Sudbury zone. Craven moving it in. And Benda centering it. Nobody is home. Tipped by Simpson and out at center. And P.J. McPherson intercepted. Bob Berg will be offside.
Well, as the game goes on, the music gets louder, and so does the ice chatter, because the crowd is now out of the hockey game.
Well, actually, they haven't been in it since about the 5-minute mark of the opening period.
Few empty seats, but most are hanging in, and the reason they are is because they're well aware that the Oshawa Generals are a very explosive team.
No, it's because Ralphie, when he parked his truck, blocked the exit. They can't get out.
What the guy covering his face in the crowd?
Apparently he's not supposed to be here, maybe.
Oh.
He says, thanks, Global. Benda out at center. Cody seeing some ice time now. And he gets a shot on, and Tanner made the stop. And Rick Kornacki will start spreading around the ice time with his team down by 5. Off the glass, still in the zone. Benda reaching for it. Cannot come up with it. Lots of bodies up along the boards. Bennett came in to help out as well. Now Cody will work it free. Came right out in front. Cut off by Tanner as he had company in a hurry. McPherson flew in there after the loose puck, except it wasn't loose.
That could have been a real dangerous butt end.
Tanner got twisted around pretty well there after smothering the puck in the crease. He's got a smile for somebody in the Generals.
Oh. He does like to get involved, though, doesn't he, Ralph?
And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with goaltenders that have a personality that says, hey, throw what you want at me. But the only thing is you, when you're gotten to, other teams like to let you know. And I know early in this hockey game, after Rod Pearson's 2 goals put Oshawa up 2-0, I saw Eric Lindros after the second goal load the stick like a rifle and shoot Tanner as if to say, we got you, big guy.
Yeah.
But Tanner, to his credit, has turned it around, and he's made some great saves, most notably off Lindros in the second period. So, well, he certainly does have a lot of character, that's for sure.
I bet those two have another conversation before the night's out.
I'm sure they'll have many before the series is out. Resumes Sunday night in Sudbury. Long shot in on goal, and Brathwaite, who started the game, came out in favor of Mike Fountain, then had to replace him again with 1.5 minutes left in the second, and he's back in there to start the third. O'Hagan behind the net, clears around the boards. Hollis didn't see it coming. Rivers keeping it in. It's off in front, and Davis picking it up and circles the goal. John Paul Davis, a former first-round draft pick for the Generals, and an Oshawa native, was 10th in defensive scoring this year. Rivers put it in front of his net. Hollis works against Young along the boards. Deasley's in there as well, and Hollis looks to center. Deasley picking it up, and he couldn't steer it in. We have a down Sudbury player. I'm not sure who that is. Might be Bob Berg. We will see what happened here.
O'Hagan on Young, it looks like.
Oh yes.
Thanks for the shave. Oh. Well, the referee's got to clamp down on this stuff.
Well, you want to know why I think this game could get a little bit ugly as we go on? Just take a look at this. Cheap shot of the night.
Oh, jeez.
And you look where the stick went up under the visor.
Yeah, there's no mistake about that, is there?
So it's Jason Young being tended to, and a penalty is coming up against the Oshawa Generals, who are already in trouble in this game, trailing 7-2 on the OHL Game of the Week on the Global Television Network. Young being given some assistance. Now there are penalties coming up on the board. They have minor penalties up against both teams. I don't think they've got the right guy.
No, definitely not. And you'll notice that the referee Borden took a while to whistle it down, so I don't think he saw it. O'Hagan is still out in the ice, and boy, you want to talk about instant replays for goals. How about for stuff like this? And he's an obvious pain there.
We'll have another look at this because the Oshawa penalized player is Scott Hollis. But as you'll see here, it's Paul O'Hagan, number 29. And right now, O'Hagan is still standing out on the ice.
Right now, I want to ask you guys a question. Dave Branch may be watching this broadcast, even though there is not a penalty right now called on the play. Could he not get suspended for that?
I'll tell you what has to happen, and I'm sure it will happen. Sam McMaster would have to send in the tape to the commissioner's office for review. And then the action can be taken after the fact.
Well,
and I'm sure Sammy already has that tape en route to the OHL office.
Well, let's put it this way. Mr. O'Hagan certainly doesn't look like he's losing any sleep over spearing another player in the face, does it?
No, just the two minors on the play, so both teams will be shy a man, but that's brutal stuff.
Well, I hope Sam McMaster grabs a copy of that right after the game, takes it to Dave Branch. That's got to be dealt with. That is a joke. Playoffs or not, it's a cheap shot. He could have knocked his eye out. I mean, we have no idea the extent of the injury as it is now.
Well, I'll tell you what the problem with it is it may be dealt with in the next 5 minutes on the ice.
Yeah.
And O'Hagan is out there now. Rink wide for Davis. McMaster might be in our truck right now ordering the instant replay. Berg, center ice. Here's Chitteroni breaking free of a check. Gets a backhand shot away that's stopped by Freddie Brathwaite. And O'Hagan plays it to Craigwell at center. Craigwell to the line. And he set up but didn't shoot, then let it go. And it got caught up in the skate of Tanner at the side of the net. And he holds on for a faceoff.
I'll tell you, I can't get over that. That makes me sick. I don't care what league it's in. That is a cheap shot. If you think you're a big tough guy because you can be 1.5 foot behind somebody, take the end of your stick and spear them under the shield. If that's tough, good luck in the National Hockey League, pal. You're going to last about 2 minutes.
Ralphie, you've got to stop beating around the bush and start saying what you think.
Well, let's
pretty
put it
serious
this way.
stuff, though.
It is.
There's somebody that's probably lying on a medical table right now.
I guess
may agree with me.
I guess the ironic part about it is that it is Jason Young,
yeah,
who was suspended for 29 games for his part of an action that resulted in a broken neck.
Exactly, and that's going to be just as serious an infraction.
Well, we haven't heard the last of this one.
Tanner's going to skate with it for a while.
I don't know, you see that every so often, and it, you know, you talk about violence in hockey, that's what it is.
We'll take a break from the Oshawa Civic Auditorium. 7-2, Sudbury in the lead on the OHL Game of the Week. What happened out of that incident a few minutes ago, by the way, resulted in penalties to both teams, so they're playing a player short, and there's 1:05 minutes left in those penalties. They're at even strength. Sean Rivers, he's been a standout in this contest, and a goal and 4 assists will speak for that. He lobs it in to a guy who has 3 goals. Murray working against Burgess along the boards, and he's hanging tough up against the mesh. Worked loose, Greve dropping it back, and Burgess ahead on the wing, too far for Rob Pearson, and Bennett will stab it back into the Oshawa zone. Greve clears on the other side, and it will be an outlet pass to Pearson. Pearson trying to work around Bennett. Force behind the net. Bennett stays with him and finishes the check, and a loose puck results, and it's taken by Sean Rivers, and Rivers will poke it ahead to center. Steered away by Convery, picked up by Greve, and Greve coming back for the Generals. At the line, intercepted, and Rivers on his backhand will clear it to center, and Murray bouncing off Burgess, going after the puck. It's like a pinball out there, but that time he couldn't get around Hoffman. Oshawa back the other way. Greve dumps it in, and he retreats for a line change, and Bennett picks it off, and he curls into the corner, gets it back to the point, but not out. Kravich's shot off the board, Stoss leaving, and now here's Matthews away with Kovacs. Matthews lobs it ahead, and he heads off for a change. Off the corner boards, Kravich behind the goal. Simpson lobs it up on the wing, and it's cleared to center, and Bartley stands there and drives it ahead off Kravich, and a rolling puck is up for grabs. Cody will be cut off, and it will be cleared away by Bartley to center ice. Simpson ahead, Barry Young redirects it out, and Simpson along the far boards, curling back in his own zone. Almost picked off. Instead, Kravich tips to center. It's knocked back in. Simpson to Kravich. Kravich lobbing it along the boards, and Barry Young giving chase back in his own end. Barry Young turning, looking for Kovacs. Puck is airborne, pulled down in front by Bartley. Takes his time, rolls it into his own bench. And we have played 8 minutes and 59 seconds of the third period. 7-2 Sudbury on the OHL Game of the Week. Faceoff is inside the Sudbury blue line. McPherson ties up his man. Davis after the puck, banged at by Bennett at the same time, and loose along the boards. Alistair still feeding behind the net. And here's O'Donnell, number 6, a native of Canada, out at center. And back it rolls, and Canada is a place that will be in a couple of weeks' time for the Canadian Tire Cup, the Ontario Bantam Hockey Championships, and you'll see it live on the Global Television Network, the 7th of April. Looking forward to being there to bring you the game. Out at center. Bennett ties up Deasley along the boards. Here's a centering attempt, and O'Donnell stands guard and deflects it. Up to the line and out. Berg picking it up. Here's O'Hagan back. Berg in for a wrist shot right on. And Brathwaite made the save. Around he goes. Davis ahead. Deasley shooting it in. John Tanner is playing about as cool and comfortable as a goaltender in a playoff game can be. Offside Oshawa.
Well, so far we haven't seen all that much in the way of what could be a brawl. We have seen people scrambling to get out of their seats to the exits. But I'm still a little worried around the 5-minute mark. Things could all of a sudden heat up in a hurry.
Well, the thing is, they have to play again on Sunday night. There's still lots more to go in the series. Whether that makes a difference, Ralphie, I don't know.
I've just seen it happen too many times.
I guess it's up to the coaches as to how their team is going to respond.
I don't even, you know, they can only do so much. They can control the team on the bench. They don't really have that much control over players on the ice, or I don't think it would have taken an hour and a half to play the first period.
Well, the coaches just have to say it's a long series. Pick your spot. If you're going to go after any retribution, don't do it here. Coaches have to have control. That's what they tell us. Lindros along the boards, looking for Burgess. He's denied the pass by Kovacs. And it's cleared out at center and gathered in, and Mike Pekka. Right side, Grieve stood him up at the line. And the loose puck behind the net goes to Brian Grieve. Grieve into the corner. Outlets too far for Lindros. Chopped at by Young. Deflected by Kovacs. And here's Grieve again. Matt Hoffman, number 12. Right side, flips it in. Craigwell turns back to the line, handing it off for Hoffman. Almost intercepted by Kovacs. Side of the net, Lindros, and Tanner is challenging, and he wins that challenge.
Well, as Jimmy pointed out earlier in the game, there was a bit of heat going on between Tanner and Lindros, but Tanner's got the edge in this one. So do the Sudbury Wolves, 7-2 in Oshawa.
Face-off in the Sudbury zone. 7-2, Wolves in the lead, and it would appear that they're going to put themselves right back in this series, heading home for Game 4. Out at center, and Jason Young is back. That's good news, and it almost was extra good news for Jason Young, who was looking for his own kind of revenge on that shot.
Well, the shots on goal, 24 for Sudbury. They've made good on 7 of those as we take a look at Fred Brathwaite's glove save off Jason Young.
Generals have not lost on home ice since the 4th of January. North Bay beat them 5-3 that night.
Like we said, so much for streaks and statistics once you get into the playoffs.
Scott Hollis and Jamie Matthews on this face-off, and it's won by Hollis. Craven to the point. Murray holds it in. Not for long. Generals can't get loose. Rob Pearson. Different line combination here as Cornish and Hollis are getting some ice time with Rob Pearson. Craven gains the zone. Goes in after it. Bartley cuts him off. Wade Bartley. Jason Young moving it in 2-on-1. Matthews over the line with Murray. Here's Matthews. Scores!
Boy, Terry Crispin really pick him, can he? And again, it's like all the other Sudbury goals. The guy just burns right in on the goalie and pretty well blows him away.
Oh, what a move we're going to see here.
Hey.
He took what was given to him.
A couple of the fans issued speeding tickets on the way to the exit now.
Going to get a windburn as they blow by us.
Well, I know they like to say, to use another cliche, the operating over to the big lady sings, and she may not be singing, but she's at the microphone.
Jason Young will draw the lone assist at 11:52. Matthews' second goal of the game, and he too has a couple of assists, and it's 8-2. And here they come again. Convery turning off the boards. Rivers had thoughts of going in after it. Cody took his time and is checked, and Davis takes the pass off the boards for McPherson and dumped down in the corner. Race for it. Rivers drilling it back. Mike Yo, who has not seen much ice time here, is out there with Derek Etches and Brandon Convery. Rivers and O'Donnell standing back at the blue line. Penalty is coming up against Oshawa, and Mike Yeo takes the pass out at center. Resets, handing off. Convery to the line and lobbed in. Brathwaite will let it go. Cody touches it, and we'll have a penalty coming up to the Oshawa Generals with 7 minutes and 20 seconds to go in the third period. Sudbury with this one well in hand. John Tanner has really had to check all sides tonight because the Generals went after him early. He went after them early, and in that case, Jan Benda going off for interference at 12:40.
Now, how bad is this loss for Oshawa? Most goals allowed in the game prior to this one, 7 by Oshawa in our game of the week. They lost in overtime to Belleville, already 8 against them. Worst game of the season defensively, and it looks like it.
Their 2 worst games have been on these telecasts. They're not going to want to see you anymore, Mr. Tatti.
They've had some great luck in these telecasts. They have 2 bad games defensively. One game we do, they get knocked off the air. One game on national television, they get rainstormed off the air. And they're out of control.
Power play, Sudbury. 8-2, they lead it. Rivers back to Stoss, turning it in. Chitteroni bombs it off in front of the net. Rivers again at the point. Rink wide for Bennett. Bennett took the shot, and it comes back out to center ice again. A minute to go in the power play. And if the Oshawa Generals need any incentive, of course, the scoreboard speaks for itself. But also at this point, we'll see who Mr. Mckenzie sends out here. 3,900 plus the attendance here tonight.
Of which I think only half are left. That'll be the 900 side of it. It must have been dismissed by sections because it was funny. One section seemed to empty out, and now it's eventually.
They do things in an orderly fashion here. Yeah. And really, you can't blame them. They've seen some great hockey this year with Lindros and company, and tonight's game isn't one of them.
No, but on the other hand, the Oshawa Generals, if they are the great team that won the Memorial Cup last year, they would use this as a character builder. They would use this as a game that maybe they didn't come as prepared for as they should have, and they'll be able to go into Sudbury, maybe get the win there, or somehow get out of the series. Remember the year the Calgary Flames won the Stanley Cup?
Yeah.
They go 7 games against Vancouver in the first round, and this could be somewhat of a comparison should Sudbury turn this into a long season.
Penalty is coming up, and it will be against Sudbury. Something I was going to say a moment ago, except I wanted to hear the attendance figure, and that was the #1 power play unit was out for Sudbury with a 6-goal advantage, and I was waiting to see who else he was going to send out. And so far, let's put it like this. The 4th line hasn't seen any power play time, despite the score, which rests with Sudbury 8-2. Glenn Murray picking up a slashing penalty a moment ago. 14-13 time of the penalty, and it nullified the remaining 26 seconds in the Sudbury power play, and will indeed send Oshawa to the man advantage very soon. Out at center, Jason Young bouncing puck, and he's up with it, looking for some help. Off of O'Hagan, out to O'Donnell at center, and dumped down in the corner. Oshawa will go to their 6th power play of the game. They've scored once. Benda steers to the boards. Cody. Benda moving in against Pekka. Weaver turns out of the corner. And Weaver, one of the top scoring rookies in the league this year. Taken as an overage from the Toronto Marley Midgets in the 3rd round by the Generals. And that's not often you see that, especially when teams in the 3rd round can take underage players. Oshawa went with an overage. Weaver had a 14-goal, 30-assist season for 44 points. Less than a minute to go in the Murray penalty, and the Sudbury Wolves do as they have done right along, and they take care of their own zone. Simpson in off the board, centering it, and it's picked off by Bartley behind the net. Another centering attempt. It's denied by Young. Bartley spots an opening as there's nobody at the point, and here's Fred Brathwaite way out of the net to feed Lindros. Lindros ahead to Craigwell. Craigwell is tied up. Lindros and Kovacs end up in the corner. Lindros to the side of the net with that shot one-handed. And the Generals' Dale Craigwell out of the corner back to Looock. Rink wide. Davis into Pearson. Pearson stood up by Bennett. And along the boards, kicked loose. And Lindros picks it up. Steering it back to the blue line. Knocked away. And Alistair still with good speed. Still won't get the shot away, however, as his stick was hooked by Davis. 8-2 the score remains. Both teams back to full strength. Lindros, drop pass. Craigwell, he shoots right on, and a pad save by Tanner. And the Wolves come out of it. Murray at center. And he'll lob it down and then head back to the bench for a line change. Less than 3.5 minutes to go in the third period. And the Sudbury Wolves have put themselves back in this series with a convincing victory over Oshawa, although it's not over yet. Craigwell at center. Backhands it right into Brandon Convery. Recovers, makes the play to Kovacs. And then Kovacs took a hit from Lindros. And Kovacs looks like he's going to be given the penalty. Must have been something I didn't see there as it comes out to center, and Kovacs will go off for roughing.
Well, I just kind of caught the tail end of the collision there, Jack. It looked like they just collided at center ice. But it is, in fact, Kovacs with 3 minutes on the button left here in the third period. The Generals will go to the power play. I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. 8-2.
Well, Ralphie, it's kind of up in the air as to our next telecast. We're hoping next Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock. Stay tuned to Global. If the schedules fall into place, we'll be in a building somewhere in this league next Saturday at 2 o'clock. Kovacs goes off for roughing at 17 minutes. Not a lot of folks are going to hang around to watch this Oshawa power play, their 7th of the game. Hollis takes the pass, right wing, in there for a centering attempt, intended for Cornish, picked off, and back to the point it goes. Craven off the boards. Bennett got a piece of that. Draws a crowd as it came out in front. Barry Young will backhand it out. 2.5 minutes left in the third period. Here comes Oshawa. Hoffman from center. He'll dump it down in the corner. And Tanner is out of the net again. Of course, every time he comes out of there, he's inviting some trouble. And that doesn't bother him in the least.
I don't think at this stage anyway. I think he's having a lot of fun. And I find it a little bit interesting that the regular power play unit of the Oshawa Generals is not starting this power play. Lindros, Pearson, and Craigwell have worked a lot as a unit, but they're not out there now.
Now this is Rick Kornaki's chance to give some guys a little ice time on the power play, which they wouldn't normally get. Sunday's another day where the Generals are concerned, and that's exactly the way they have to look at it. Burgess offside. He lost control of the puck as he hit the line. 42 seconds left in Kovacs' penalty, and 1:42 left to go in the third period. 31-27 are the shots favoring the Oshawa Generals, and John Tanner perhaps overshadowed by the fact that his team has come up so big offensively in this game, but he has come up with big stops at key times.
Well, 31-27 shots on goal in favor of the Oshawa Generals. You've got to give Sudbury a little more credit than that for the way they've played, and you've got to give that man, John Tanner, a lot of credit for some timely saves, particularly, Jack, I thought in the second period, the one up Eric Lindros.
The score was still relatively close at that point, and you can look back at that as perhaps a turning point in the game. Lindros scores, it's a different game. Burgess threw it in off O'Donnell. Tanner wides out to his left. Penalty coming to an end, and will be in for the 1-minute announcement here. And that is greeted with cheers from the Oshawa fans, or what few are left here. That began with 3,900 and change in the Oshawa Civic Auditorium. They had a game in which they cheered wildly in the first 4.5 minutes as Rob Pearson gave Oshawa a 2-0 lead. But the Sudbury Wolves have come back with 8 straight goals, beginning with a hat trick, a natural hat trick by Glenn Murray. his second, third, and fourth of the postseason, and Murray's third goal at the moment stands as the game winner. 25 seconds left in the third period. Loose puck in the corner, and the Generals coming away. Here's Simpson throwing it up to Benda at center. Burgess for Simpson, and he's over the line as the Generals will make one last line change. Barry Young picks it off in front of the net as the Wolves will get ready to celebrate their first victory of the postseason, and it may not be quietly as Yo and McPherson will take off their hats and go at it.
1 second left on the clock.
As these two will settle what score they shouldn't have to settle, seeing as they've hardly seen ice time tonight. We'll take a break from Oshawa. 8-2 Sudbury in the lead.
End of the round. I thought things might get a little ugly, but fortunately it was just the two players involved in it. The other 8 that were on the ice all skated their respective benches, and that was the end of it. And let's just hope that they drop the puck, the seconds off, and that's it.
Jim Tatti is standing by downstairs. Jimmy?
Well, it's quieter down here, but not by much. At the end of the game, we'll have the Molson Cup 3 stars and the Longines Wittenauer play the game. Now let's go back up to the booth.
What I'd like to do is get you a shot of how close the benches are here. We're watching John Tanner. But the benches here in Oshawa, as you can see, Sudbury on the right, Oshawa on the left, and all there is between them is one restraining bar.
That looks like a red line.
It's about what it is, because that restraining bar wouldn't stand a chance. Look at how close those teams are. Not that I expect anything to happen. With 1 second left on the clock, there's that old thing about, well, there's nothing going to be decided by all of this. Do you just send everybody off and make sure that nothing comes out of it? Or do you? And actually what they're going to do is just that. They're going to just drop the puck and have the rest of the players stay even away from the face-off circle. Except they didn't start the clock. Now they do.
Well, I don't think anybody's going to protest that move. So the Sudbury Wolves have come back and won the first game, or their first game of the series, 2-1 in favor of Oshawa. Now they go back to Sudbury for game 4. And who would have thought the Wolves would come into Oshawa and hammer them 8-2. Here's a look at the 3-star selection.
Well, I would agree with those all the way down the line. Glenn Murray with a hat trick, including the winning goal. He brought Sudbury from behind. Second star Sean Rivers, a goal and 4 assists. Jamie Matthews, 2 goals and 2 assists. Molson Cup star number 3. The Sudbury Wolves 8, Oshawa Generals 2. The OHL game of the week on the Global Television Network. Sudbury Wolves are right back in this series after a convincing 8-2 win over the Oshawa Generals, but the Generals still lead this series 2-1 heading back into Sudbury on Sunday night for game 4. Sudbury had to win 1 in Oshawa. They have done that, and they have done that, I think, thanks pretty much to Glenn Murray with a natural hat trick in the first period, including the game-winning goal. It's our Longines Wittenauer play of the game. Ralphie?
Well, 3 goals in 8 minutes, and we're going to look at the third one for the play of the game. As we'll see here, Jamie Matthews will eventually just poke the puck up to Glenn Murray, and Murray will tuck it under the arm of Fred Brathwaite, under the crossbar. That goal made it 3-2. Sudbury never looked back after that.
No, Sean O'Donnell with a nice play, and we also have a nice watch waiting downstairs as Jim Tatti is there with Glenn Murray.
Thank you, Jack. Good to see things brightening up there in a hurry. Now we have Glenn Murray here, and because you're the author of the Longines Wittenauer play of the game, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Here's your watch.
Thank you.
And because you're the first star, the Brute Sports Bag. If anything's sampled in there, complain to Ralphie.
Okay,
Let's take a look now at the play of the game. You can describe it as you were watching it when the boys described it. You didn't know you'd done some of these things.
Yeah, all I did is come around the net, fought off the check behind the net, came around right in front. Our D pinched up, he shot it. He got right on my stick somehow and just got there, and I knew like Brathwaite was down a lot, so just put her upstairs and hopefully it goes in, and it went in.
All right, Glenn, quickly now, an 8-2 win today, a big win in game 3. How about game 4? What do you want to do in game 4?
Pretty much exactly the same thing, just come out quick. Like they got 2 quick goals. We just have to come up, play good defense. They're going to be ready for us for sure. They're going to be pumped. We just have to be ready like tonight and just come out and want to win.
All right, Glenn, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Best of luck the rest of the way.
Okay.
All right, the OHL game of the week continues right after this timeout. Welcome back to Oshawa. Final score, unbelievable. Sudbury 8 and Oshawa 2. However, the Oshawa Generals lead this series 2-1. I don't know if you can hear it in the background. The Wolves dressing room is right behind us. They are singing along to We're the Best, and they're on top of the world right now. Where will they be after Game 4? Well, we'll find out. And where will we be next week? Well, we'll find out as well, and we'll let you know if you watch Sportsline. Thanks for allowing us into your home. So long from Oshawa. OHL Game of the Week brought to you by Molson Canadian, what beer is all about. And in part by Shell, makers of performance gasoline, Formula Shell.